Hey everyone, this is Steve doing a quick video here for you. Actually, not going to be quick at all. This is a holiday special that Damien James, Rodrick from the Chaos Vibration, Rodrick Z from the Far Side of Midnight, and I had a little bit of a chat discussion right before the holiday season. I want to say it was like maybe like around the 20th of December. It's taken me a little bit of time to get this audio file, but I decided to go ahead and throw this up on my channel. Now, of course, if you do want to see the video content of this with the three of us in our discussion, you want to head over to the Chaos Vibration, which is Damien James's channel, and you can catch it there. Now, this is in length. It's probably like around 2 hours and 35 minutes, maybe 2 hours and 40 minutes. We did have quite a long chat on that day. We talked about a lot of things, Magick Mayhem. We talked about Gallery of Magick books and some of our recommendations. We were kind of going at the time as far as recommendations being that it was the Christmas season. People have gift cards, things like that. And, they may like want to be putting their money into books. And so Damien James is like, well, Steve, give us your top 5 books on the list, and Rodrick Z gave his top 5 books on the list, and both of our lists are different, so you got 10 different books there. But as I said, I just want to go ahead and throw this video out there so that you guys can give a listen to it. By all means. Things that I am in the works with right now. I'm currently reviewing a healing magic book, which is kind of going here and there with that. It's probably going to be a little bit of time before I go ahead and throw up a review on that book. I'm still doing my Holy and Guardian Angel work. That's very huge for me at the moment. Reviewing some books on vampire magic, and I should be having a review on those 4 books, probably coming the end of January, early February on that. Other than that, just continuing my follow along series with that. I will be doing an introduction video to the follow along series for week 4. I know I didn't do one for week 3 because I put a lot of stuff out there, a lot of content for week 2. I know people are probably still practicing on that. If you have questions, by all means, hit me up in the comment section down below regarding that. Either in that particular video you have a question on, or you can do it in this one, and I'll try to cover it either way. Yeah, so, I'll get that out along with some more videos for sigil use for the coming week. The sigils will probably come a little bit. I'll probably spread throughout the week just because I'm a little busy this week with the new year and all that. Also, Rodrick Z and I are doing a live stream channel on Facebook tonight. I'm hoping to catch that as far as doing a recording of that myself and throwing it up on the channel when it gets done. So, again, we're just going to be talking about the usual stuff, books, what our... what the new year holds for us as far as projects and that type of stuff. So, check back regularly. And of course, if you are not subscribed to my channel, please go ahead and do so and hit that notification bell as well. If you do like the content of my videos that I'm putting out, please hit that like button. And again, questions, comments, leave them in the comment section down below. I'll go ahead and get to that. And all of that does help the my channel so that other people can find me as well. Helps with the algorithm. So let me go ahead and cut this intro really short here, and then we will jump into the chat discussion. So see you on the other side.
Okay, guys, how we doing today? Welcome back to the Chaos Vibration. This is Damien James, as always, with a couple guests again here on this channel. Once again, we have Rodrick Z, founder and host of the Lords of Chaos / Far Side of Midnight podcast. We
What's up?
also, how you doing, Rodrick?
I'm doing great.
And thank you. We also have Steve Lamoth, and what I want to say about Steve is, I know I say this about a couple people, but I want to give credit where it's due. He's also been a big influence to this channel because his channel was one of the first that got me interested in the Gallery of Magick publishing company, which is going to be the topic of today's video. I want to do this mostly because how I feel is that we obviously have the holidays coming. People are going to have gift cards, things like that. They're probably going to be wondering where to invest their money to grow their magical practice, high magic, low magic, anything in between. Gallery of Magick caters to lots of these things, and also because, not to be negative, I'm going to assume a lot of my audience and viewers are wise enough to wonder if we're headed for an economic ice age here and maybe looking for affordable ways to turn the tides back in their favor to the best of their ability. And I personally think Gallery of Magick is a good way to do that if one approaches it with the right mindset. And we're going to be elaborating about that a little bit more in detail. But before we do that, I want to just change the screen here so everyone can see each other. And then I want to just give both Steve and Rodrick a couple minutes here to introduce themselves, where the audience can find more of their work and what they're all about. So, Steve, you want to start off?
Yes, you can find me on YouTube under S. Lamoth. I've been there for about a little over 2 years now, give or take, reviewing Gallery of Magick books as well as a few others, doing ritual demonstrations and whatnot. I've put some new content out as of this morning, so a couple new videos out there, and I'll have another one later on this week, and then a few more as the holidays hit when I have more time to do those. But I've also been contributing to Lords of Chaos discussion panel on a regular basis, and I generally try to do you guys a little bit of justice, throw your guys' channels out there with my channel and say, hey, check out Far Side of Midnight, check out Chaos Vibration, spread the love a little bit. So
thank you. And I just want to say to my audience really quick, it would mean a lot to me too if you subscribe to Steve's channel. And once again, checked out Rodrick's Far Side of Midnight / Lords of Chaos podcast. And not just for our sake, we're some hardworking, authentic magician here. Also because if you like the work of any of one of us, I really, really think that you will like the work of the others. It all blends together nicely. And as always, I say question me, question everything, because I don't know it all, and I want to give everyone that opportunity. With that being said, Rodrick, you've been on here already, but in case it's the first time people are hearing from you, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, what you got going on?
What's going on? Yeah, just running the Lords of Chaos discussion panel on the Far Side of Midnight podcast. I can be found on a lot of platforms. Actually, I will be coming soon to SoundCloud, but right now I'm on Spotify, Apple, Google, Breaker, like a few other ones, Anchor. Yeah, I'm a practicing magician. I practice ceremonial magic, theurgy, chaos magic, thelema. I have a kind of a lot of sets of practices going on. Other than that, I'm a writer, and I'm also a visual artist. I do a lot of like occult and pagan kind of artwork, visual artwork, graphic artwork, and yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you. And just once again, my audience, the links will be in the show notes below. There's also going to be a link above with some previous discussions with myself and Rodrick, as well as Andrea Vitmus, author of the book Hands-on Chaos Magic, who was nice enough to appear on this channel, so who also appears on Rodrick's show, and hopefully we'll have Stephen back after today too. But just getting to the points today, I want to talk about Gallery of Magick, and I think the best place to start is how we all found this publishing company, what our first experiences were, and how it maybe changed the way we looked at magic or even practical magic. Because I don't I want you guys to do most of the sharing today, but I'm just going to say that I was extremely skeptical. I started with Masterworks of Chaos Magic by Adam Blackthrone. That made sense for Chaos Magic. I think the second book was Magical Cash Book. And I said to myself, this just looks like law of attraction bullshit. I was expecting nothing, and I was beyond pleasantly surprised and found myself reverse engineering what they did and adding a lot of those elements to my own magical practice for my own spellcraft, my own rituals, my own grimoires, and things along those lines. So, whoever wants to start here, what was your experience with GOM? What brought it to you, and what did you think? How did it change your opinion?
You can go, Steve.
Well, let's see. I think I found them back in 2015, so they were still relatively new back then. I had sort of been on a hiatus from my current magical practices at the time. I moved around quite a bit, and I had just moved back into my own place. I just got out of a bad living situation with some friends that I was with for a while that were basically sucking the money out of me every month as much as they possibly could. And I just said, fuck it, I'm getting out of this place, So I moved, and I think within a couple days of being in my new place, I think I just bought like a brand new tablet, like Fire tablet, if I'm not mistaken. And I was accessing the internet, and I was thinking, well, I haven't gotten into my magical practices for a long time. And now I'm in a situation that I can do that again. So, I started looking into a couple books that I might be able to get to off of Amazon. And these particular books just seemed to like pop up when I was looking up for Chaos Magic. And I don't know what really drew me to it. I had read about it in the past. I wasn't certain as far as like its practices. I understood that it was more like a bare bones kind of thing. And so I wanted something to get into the practice, but not something traditional. Like I didn't want to deal with Peter Carroll. I didn't want something that was like going to be like heavy and like a very mental type thing. I wanted something like very straightforward. So Brandon, Damon Brand's books like popped out at me, the 72 Angels of Magic. There was the Wealth Magic book, the Magical Cash book, Magical Riches. Magical Protection was also available at the time, I think. And really, I think I bought like every single one of them within a week. Like I bought the 72 Angels of Magic and the Cash book and the Magical Riches and the Wealth Magic book, like all at the same time as Kindle format, because they were like relatively cheap. They were like $3, $4, $5 a piece. And then like within like the week, I'd probably purchase like one or two other books that was available at the time. And I pretty much started to put them to use right away. I went out that weekend, I bought the materials and make the cash book up, and I did that, and I consecrated it and everything. And again, like I was relatively up and running, like doing rituals within a couple of days, and I was feeling very confident about what was going on, and the type of results that I was getting at the time. So
now, may I just ask you, Steve, were you expecting it to work, or were you kind of more like me? I don't really know what to think. This seems a little too simplistic to be true. Seems too simplistic to be magic. Or
I did think of that at first, and of course, again, I came from a position where I was, if you grew up around the magical practices of the time when I was involved with stuff, it was like everything was like Llewellyn Publications. And I had a lot of bad experiences with Llewellyn books. You know, they just seem to be lacking depth on how to perform certain things, like particularly visualization skills.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that Damon Brand, the way that Damon Brand was describing it was just kind of like let go and play with it, and you know, kind of like be free, be like a kid again, and just kind of like imagine it and let it go, and it'll come. You know, you'll get results. You just have to keep, you know, plugging away at it. And I did that, and I was like, hey, well, I think he's got like a good point to this, because nobody's ever explained visualization to me in a way that he did in his books. And for some reason, that just seemed to connect with me. And I was like, okay, if I had these books like 15 years ago, you know, if I had access to the information of these books 15 years ago, I probably would have had a far better experience with my magical practices then than what I was experiencing at the time.
Okay. And Rodrick, what brought you to Gallery of Magick? What were your first thoughts, your experiences, any doubts, any revelations?
Yeah, well, with my story, I'll be honest. I was actually for a long time kind of a snob with a lot of modern grimoires, you know, because I had been involved in a number of currents over the years and studied with different people. Then they just never really recommended kind of getting out, stepping outside of certain boundaries and getting into a lot of the newer material. A lot of the teachings that I have were where you were initiated. And even though I, solitary and a lot of different practices, I would still stick with a lot of the tradition grimoires. So I would stick with things like the Heptameron or the Goetia or, the Greek magical papyri, things like that. I didn't really want or need at the time getting into the newer grimoires. However, something happened in about 2018. I think it was like mid or late 2018, to where I just had this spark of inspiration out of nowhere to find a more modern approach. I wanted something that was less dogmatic. I was kind of getting back into my solitary practices and sort of distancing myself with some previous currents that I had been involved with at the time. And I was scrolling on the internet looking for different ways of working with angels. And because I was already connected to the Heptameron kind of work, and I had a teacher that showed me some other ways of working with angels, like way back, a long time ago, and before Amazon days. If that shows you how old I am and everything. And I came across the Angels of Magick by Damon Brand, and I clicked on it, and I ended up getting the Kindle format of that, because the Kindle format wasn't the print on demand, so the sigils had the red and the black and white on there, and I liked how that looked and how you were able to use it. And I just fell in love with it right away. I felt like the snob in me that wanted that sort of high magical art sort of calmed down for a moment. And what it did was it gave me a very direct approach that was without all the dogma. There was still a lot of the sacred words from the Hebrew, and it was almost like it was just enough of the tetragrammaton in there. And for those of you who aren't familiar with that, I mean, you look in the Kabbalah, you have these certain holy names when you're invoking angels. But unfortunately, when you get into certain currents, and I'm not dogging any currents or magical schools by no means, because they can be a benefit to whoever joins them, I think, depending on who you are, of course. But for me, I wanted the tech without the dogma. And that's what this brought. It just brought the tech was there, and there was no dogma, nothing telling you that that you had to work with only the Shem angels and not the 72 demons or the Goetia, if that makes sense. So there was the fact that there was no dogma. It was straightforward, pretty easy to use. I liked it. And
Yeah.
you were able to, another thing I liked about it is it allowed me, and I'm sure for other people that's given testimonies, if you were currently involved in a certain practice or current, it didn't kind of fight with it, if that makes sense. So if you were working with, some people that were working with the Golden Dawn type of magic, if they wanted to bring in a little bit of the Angels of Magic or Archangels of Magic, it's fine. It can totally work with that. Or if you're a witch or chaos magician, whatever. So I like that. That's what helped me. I did the Angels of Magic. I believe I worked with that for about 3 to 6 months on average.
Okay.
And then after that, I ended up investing when the Archangels of Magic book was released. I ended up working with that. So because a lot of my magic that I'm into is spirit work, deity work and stuff. So, I don't know. That's my testimony.
Yeah, that's kind of important. It's kind of interesting how you mentioned like without the dogma, because that was one of the reasons that one of the things I liked about it too is it didn't weigh that down. It's like you could get right into the practice, and you didn't have to worry about, so like you have to clean yourself for like 3 days. You have to fast for 7 days or some shit like that. It's like you could just get right into it, and you had the tech. In order to get started, and as long as you were consistent, your results might be hit or miss depending on the situation, but I still felt like I was making progress, regardless.
Right. I felt when I was using the Angels of Magic, because that was the first book that I ever used from it. It really, because how we all end up having our own diaries and Book of Shadows and things like that. We try to record what we do and to keep track of our progress. And your practice is your craft. It's something that you build on. You learn year after year, week after week, if you're consistent with it. I felt that Damon Brand's Gallery of Magic books, particularly, gave me enough of the freedom without the dogmatic and the tech that was there for me to add certain elements of my own practice as I was continuing to build. Because during that time, personally, I was trying to add more of the celestial and angelic work. I kind of flip-flop depending on what I need at the time. Sometimes I'll have times where I'm deep into my shadow work and I'm working less with angels and more with infernals and kind of back and forth. And during that time, I was wanting to increase my connection to more celestials, and that it helped me with that, and it worked. So,
yep. That's always something that I've always put out on my channel too. Is the Gallery of Magic books are great. They give you that foundation that you need to start that practice, but after a while, you take that practice and you start adding little things to it, and you start making it your own. You start changing it to something that represents you, and your spiritual practices, your spiritual beliefs, and pretty soon that you have something that's like all your own that like represents you. So that's that's a great thing with Gallery Magic, is I like that they gave you the foundation to start with something, and you could run with it at that point. Obviously, I always say that you should learn what it teaches in the book, and then after some point, after you've got enough experience, if you want to start tinkering with it a little bit, or you start adding other things, you could go ahead and do that, and it really doesn't throw like a wrench into the whole thing.
Agreed. And I want to say one more thing about it too, because most of my experience with the GOM has been from Damon Brand's perspective and his writings and everything. Another thing I liked about it too is the way it was written it did not only did it not come off as dogmatic, it didn't come off as overly egotistical, if that makes sense. In other words, his writings did not reflect any type of let me reinvent the wheel. There wasn't any kind of energy in there where it was sort of like, I know everything there is to know about ceremonial magic. It just didn't feel like that. It felt a lot more down to earth and authentic, and I really appreciated that. And like I said, at that time, I was very, very anti neo grimoire, if that makes any sense. There was a time I was just like, fuck these new books, man. We don't stick with the classics. You don't need to go with anything else. Just kind of, there was a time I was a little bit like that. So, but I let that go. So,
Okay. So did it, I guess it for you, did it change the way you looked at the occult a little bit more? I guess for lack of better saying, made a believer out of you, or at least believing in the simplicity of magic, or?
Well, you know, all of us are a little bit different with how we learn and how we implement things that we learn. So I don't want to make myself sound like a super rigid guy, but I need a foundation, and I'm the kind of person that when I learn something new, I have a martial arts background, long time, and I like structure. So if I'm learning, let's say, white belt in a new style of karate or something, I need to have structure. I don't want to just learn a bunch of random things here and there, and then, you know, I might forget them. Yeah, I need to learn like 5 things, and I'll just practice the 5 things for a while, and then the next set of things and the next set. So foundation is something that's very, very important with me, which is why for the longest time when I was practicing certain types of some of the different currents that I haven't mentioned, I was given instructions from how to work with certain grimoires, certain transmissions and things like that, and they helped me out. They helped me because I didn't have to think a lot. I could just jump right in there and follow the instructions. So I didn't learn, you know, chaos magic is not something that you learn, I guess you can say. So GOM, I have the thing for the chaos approach I took with certain other types of magics I would do. So it gave me, what it did for me was it allowed me to sort of loosen up in a way and not be so tight and rigid. It gave me just enough of the ingredients that I needed. And all I have to do was just take these ingredients, find the correspondences, and bam, I can do something. I can do some magic. And it was that easy. And I like that about it. So that's how it's changed my view, if that makes sense.
Okay. No, I like that answer a lot. I guess I was curious because I just know you like the ceremonial magic with Leva stuff, and I'd imagine that would be shocking. I know the positive impact it had on me because I started with the New Age and even chaos magic. I was extremely skeptical with everything I was reading, and it was the way I think Adam Blackthorne and David Brand wrote that made me feel silly for waiting for the right spells and opportunities all the time. I was like, look, you've just got to go out there and try this.
Right.
And admittingly, maybe it was because it was more simplistic. It seemed a little bit more accessible to me.
Yeah, because like back when I lived in North Carolina, like between 1997 and like 2003 or 4, while I was there, like I was practicing a little bit of ceremonial too, like Donald Michael Craig stuff.
Okay.
And I remember like sometimes being up till like fucking 3 o'clock in the fucking morning, like doing these rituals. It just like fucking took hours and hours. Like I remember consecrating my wand, or like my celestial wand or whatever it was, or wand of the zodiac or whatever it was. I forget. Anyways, I was like up for like 3 or 4 hours. It was like way freaking like late at night, and I was like, man, I gotta work it like in like 3 hours, and I ain't like freaking slept in a long time, and I feel, you know, I felt like I was losing my voice doing all these fucking chants. And I put like so much freaking time into practicing that, and it's like you're always, it's, to me, it's like you're always like waiting, like you have to wait for this certain time of the month in order to do this. And chaos magic was just like, yo, dude, if you need like $500, go out and you know grab your magical cash book and just do it for 11 days, and that's it. You know, and that was a great thing with GOM books, is that again it gave you that foundation, it gave you that structure, it gave you that confidence. It's like, hey, I could do this, and you know, you didn't feel like you were just like waving like stuff, like your hands around in the air, like, you know, aimlessly. And it cut out like all the bullshit. You didn't need the robes. You didn't need the wand. You really didn't need like a lot of shit. And that was what was great about it. Is I could sit in a pub having a meal, reading a book, and doing a fucking ritual at the same time, and nobody would like have any fucking clue what I was doing.
Right.
Right.
I know one thing that impressed me was, and I know some people are going to say this is controversial, and I'm not trying to be biased, but if I sound that way, I would argue that almost all Gallery of Magick is, in a sense, really drawing from that chaos magic energy of spirit, just completely cut the bullshit.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And in a lot of ways does a better job than chaos magic ever did. One of my jokes about chaos magic right now is if they looked at, like, when there's fucking detergent on the floor, right? They were like, oh, the occult made a mess. They just took the brown paper towels and wiped that mess right into the floor and created more confusion for everybody. And, you know, that was my thing with Psychonaut. Oh, now just stand by a fire hydrant for why? You know, so I really love that about the GLM. And I remember going through the same things with Modern Magic. How I just like to use it is, and we'll come back to this, I think, in later on in the shoot, but I like using the GOM Wealth Magic, especially the cash book, because, not in a negative sense, I don't care that much about doing money magic, but it's important. So I kind of use GOM to outsource the shit I don't care about, so I can keep my focus on the important work. So you can do the Donald Michael Craig work, build the wand or whatever, and not feel rushed. You can, you know, work on your content still and have more time to do that, work on your comics, where with the traditional Grimoire stuff, it's not even an option. And even a lot of the Chaos Magic books, there's this are experimenting with routines, and you've got a permutations combinations problem when you're going back through your Grimoires at the end of the year. So that's really what I think one of the real magics of the Gallery of Magick. Honestly, I think the company name is self-explanatory. It's literally like it tore around a gallery, like, oh, here's a snippet of Chaos Magic, here's a snippet of Enochian, so on and so forth. Now, you guys mentioned the Kindle editions, right? You've seen books by the Kindle?
Oh, yeah.
You've checked out the Kindle too as well, Steve?
Oh, yeah. In the beginning, that's pretty much what I bought exclusively was the Kindle format, because I mean, you're looking at it, it's like, okay, well, do I want to buy the paperback? It's $18.99. Do I want to buy the Kindle edition? It's $4.99. Well, you know, I want to get into my practice as quickly as possible. I don't want to have to wait for a book to ship to me. And it's like a third of the cost, you know, and I can like download it in like literally a couple minutes. So, and and that was something that I've always done on my channel is I tell people, it's like, look, it doesn't need to cost a lot of money. If you can spend $5 for the book, you can get right into your practice in like literally 10 minutes after getting the book, and you could be reading it and probably doing like some work within an hour or two. You don't have to wait for the book to come to your door. You don't have to like drive to the bookstore to, you know, and fight with traffic and people at the damn retail outlet or whatever. It's right there. I mean, and there's no reason why you can't.
And also the quality too. I'm not knocking the paperback quality of the books, but like I mentioned, the Angels of Magic from Damon Brand. You know, in the Kindle version you have, because when you're doing the actual magic itself, when you're doing the rituals, there are certain times where you would work with the red writing on the sigils without giving too much away if you haven't bought it. And in the printed versions, the whole thing was black and white because it was more print on demand. So I felt like I was getting like a better quality even with that, you know, having it as digital, because they had the black, white, and the red specifically. So I thought that was good.
You actually just psyched out my question, which I wanted to ask for the audience. I like paperback books, but I noticed that, and I heard from other content creators, the sigils on the Kindles were actually better and easier to work with for those reasons. I noticed with some of the paper talismans there, trying to scan them, trying to work with them, I don't want to say it was harder, it just didn't really seem to work as well. I know get a little ahead of myself here, but I've been working solely through Success Magic, the Enochian book, and that was an issue with those sigils. Sometimes on some of those paper too, the talismans are just way too big, and you got to hold them like all the way away to scan them. Things along those lines. So, do you think that beyond the time and price itself, that's those sigils are alone are an investment people should take into consideration?
Oh, absolutely. I think that, I mean, when you have the digital version of the sigils too, it makes for an easier reference if you go ahead and copy them. Because if you have the paperback book, which I think Steve is pulling some up right now, you know, not everybody has a scanner. Not everyone has a copy machine like in their home. Not everybody has access to things like that. It just so
to me, when I had the Kindle,
One of the first things I did was
I went out to like the local library. I was there like every Sunday, just for a couple hours, you know, 3 hours, 4 hours, and I was typing out. I was rewriting like all these rituals and kind of condensing them. Obviously, and I was like, okay, I'm going to make my own grimoire. You know, I'm going to make my own Book of Shadows. And this is like basically an example of that. I mean, that's like over 300 pages of like every Gallery of Magick ritual out there, except for the Success Magic and the Mystical Divinity book. And I even have additional ones where I've taken like all the Word of Power books and condensed them into like one big ass binder too, you know. But I mean, after a while, you know, I did purchase like the, you know, the physical content or the physical books, and you know, I did print those sigils out. You know, like I mean, like for instance, here's the first working of, you know, for the Wealth Magic, and all I did was when I got the book, I printed the sigil out, cut it out, and you know, that's like 2 millimeter packaging tape, like on, you know, on the front and back of that.
Okay,
because cool. There are times that I just like to hold something like a sigil in my hand. You know what I mean? I like to have it and feel it and look at it, and I would just like stick that. I just stuck that like right in the book with the ritual, so that, you know, it was always in one spot like all the time. And that's what I ended up doing with like all my stuff. And I just, you know, threw everything in plastic sheets, and there's a couple other things in here like I've also got stuff like, you know, the Demons of Wrath in here, and a couple other, you know, from like other authors as well. But mostly it's all Gallery of Magick stuff. So
okay. I actually think that's a nice touch. I noticed that the sigil seems to also have a glossy reflection there, which I like. It gives it a certain allure.
Yeah, it takes up a shitload of tape. Don't get me wrong.
Really?
I usually prefer drawing the sigils as much as possible or tracing them. Like even with the Words of Power, that made a difference for me. When you got to Enochi, and it was like, fuck that shit, that's not happening anymore.
I had no problem drawing the stuff if it was something that I was going to destroy later on. Like a lot of the Demons of Magic stuff. It's like when you do like a petition, like a basic petition, you know, you write your stuff out and then you tear it up or you burn it. That's fine. But I'm finding out that like a lot of my stuff, you know, it's like, okay, this is going to be reused for something, and I like to keep stuff looking relatively nice. So that's, you know, the idea I came up with. It's like, okay, it's my poor man's lamination. You know, like I said, it takes up a lot of tape and a lot of time, and you're cutting shit. You know, you're trimming everything.
Fun craft project.
Well,
felt like Martha Stewart. You know.
Hey, I think that's awesome. I know we've all had we've all spoke with Andrea now, especially on your on your podcast, Rodrick, and he always talks about, you know, consecrating making seals, and for me, that's why I still incorporate writing is, and this brings me to the next kind of part of this here is that I want to feel like I'm doing something when I am quote unquote doing magic. And one of my great critiques with the Gallery of Magick, I find, is that they almost make it so easy sometimes it's hard to get that satisfaction. And I don't mean it in a lustful or a needy way, but I think it's in like the first ritual of wealth magic. It's just like to say, how did I become so wealthy? Why am I so wealthy? And I'm like, that for me, that just didn't feel like enough. So it was important. I built my own ritual, and whether you draw it, you paint it, you destroy it, that's your own thing. That's cool. One note, I do. Oh, fuck. I'll come back to that part. What I was saying here, though, is this is an important thing or a concern I have with the Gallery of Magick, and I'm eager to hear your guys' thoughts, is in music, we call this the power chord trap. You can learn the guitar, you can learn how to play the basic power chords, but you're not necessarily learning those 6-scale chords. You're not necessarily learning, scales and how to play riffs or the complex theory. Or you can look at the tabs online, but you're not really training your ear to play the music. And that's a very easy trap to fall into with the Gallery of Magick. So are there special things you guys do to make this a little bit more in alignment with the mystery traditions? For example, maybe doing lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram before you open a Gallery of Magick book, doing some meditation, adding in other elements. Do you, Steve, or beyond the lamination or anything?
I think that I'm really going to say that it all depends on the person and what your intent is. I mean, like you got people that practice Wicca like for years and years and years, and they're just content with that. It's very simplistic practice. They have their spirituality. They have they're getting whatever they want out of it, and that's totally fine. If the Gallery of Magic stuff is your cup of tea and you're achieving or you're getting like what it is that you're wanting or needing at the time, I don't see why somebody can't practice from their books like long term. There shouldn't be a reason for it. But then still you're going to end up having people like Rodrick or myself that eventually I've been on this path for like a long time, and the one thing that I always tell people that are brand new when they come to it, or especially like some subscribers on my channel, and say, I'm new to this, what should I be doing? Or can you tell me about this or that? And I'll say, okay, well, you're new on this path. Welcome to a path of knowledge now. Now you're going to be, if you're serious about staying on this path, you're going to be learning for the rest of your life. Okay. So,
Yes.
you need to be going out there. And it's fine to ask other practitioners, like, what's your take on this? Or can you describe to me what the difference is between, the lesser banishing ritual, the pentagram, or the sword banishing ritual? It's fine to ask other practitioners their views and where to get some basic information. But you need to be delving into this type of stuff yourself as well. You need to be educating yourself. And that's like a very big practice. And a lot of us are actually practicing Luciferians as well. And that's a very big part of our practice is self-knowledge, self-education, and doing that type of work. And that's a very necessary thing for a lot of us. So yeah, I ended up adding Luciferianism to my practices, and I've read books by E.A. Coetting, and I've read books by Sorceress Cagliostro, and I mean, you see my shelf back there. I mean, probably got like 100 books just on my shelf alone, and I probably got like another 20 books in my bedroom that I still even haven't read yet. So it's and some of them are just encyclopedias and reference stuff like Encyclopedia of Demons, Encyclopedia of Angels, or stuff like that. But yeah, a lot of them, some of them are books that it's like I read it and it's like, well, I don't know why I really spent the $12 on this. It really didn't give me anything, but I mean, it's there, I suppose. And you're just gonna find that with some books. Some are just kind of like hit and miss outside of the Gallery of Magic. It's like I particularly like Temple of Ascending Flame books. I like books by Asenath Mason and Bill Duvendak. I mean, they're great authors. Other people might not think that as well, So it's a matter of personal taste and preference, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Do you have any other thoughts on this? Going beyond Gallery of Magick, it being too simplistic for you, Rodrick? Are there anything you guys, any steps you take to make it more holistic? Do you maybe do some thalamic stuff to warm up first, still take the ritual bath? Things along those lines to do it, or does that seem almost counterintuitive based on the shortness of the GOM work itself?
No, I mean the whole time. I mean this path is continual. Just like what Steve said, it's a continual learning. It's continual. Solve e coagula. Or if I said that correctly, you're coming apart, coming back together all the time. You're always learning. You're always discarding. If one is practicing properly, they will make mistakes. They will throw things away. They will gain new knowledge, and they will implement what they learned. I mean that's the only thing I can ever say to beginners, and that I do say to beginners all the time. When people want to get on this path, it's like you will be making mistakes. You will be constantly learning. You're not going to know everything. So to answer your question, the whole entire time I have worked with the GOM books, I've been doing the same practices all the time, with the exception of certain times, because like I said, I've been doing this for a long time, and I've been involved in some different currents and initiated into different currents, had different teachers, and just I have a lot of experience. But with that, I don't utilize everything that I learn every day. I would never sleep.
Right.
I would never sleep if I did that. I just want to do what's practical in the moment, and I would say that that's one of the jewels that I've received from the GOM books for being modern grimoires, and the fact that they don't, with the authors of the books I've read from them, they don't say, hey, we know it all, we're going to reinvent the wheel, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I still do a lot of the same things. I still do some of the banishing rituals. I still do some of the opening rituals that I've learned. It just depends on what I do. So my work is heavily theurgic, heavily Luciferian, working with different deities and stuff. So that all of that has always gone with me. The only thing that's changed is just little pieces and slight pieces of how I do things. Like there have been times where, like in the very beginning, when I was coming back into having some celestial work, getting in touch with like Aaronic deities again, I was like, angels are the celestial go-to for that. They're great for purging a lot of unnecessary things from your auric field. They can connect you to the different virtues, the different ranks of angels. So it was a nice direct. It was like a great starting point for that. Even though I've been working with angels before that, it was still good because you're always, Bruce Lee would always say, no matter how long you've done martial arts, you're always learning punches and kicks. You're 20, 30 years into it, you're still just doing basic punches and kicks after that. And magic is not much different. You're always going to be banishing, invoking,
right,
discarding, connecting, disconnecting to something. It's constantly that. And if you're doing magic properly, even if you're what some would call like a light worker, in the New Age community, eventually you're going to have to get in touch with your shadow. But in some kind of way, you're going to. And luckily, for anyone wanting to start out in that, the Gallery of Magick has some books that I think are great for that. So,
may I ask which recommendations you have for that?
Well, shadow work to me will be working with the demonic entities.
Okay.
So there's Demons of Magic. If you want to learn like defense magic, which I haven't read. What was it? The Magical Attack. That's one of them.
Yeah.
Magical Attack. I haven't read that one though. I do believe I have a digital copy of it somewhere though, but I haven't actually read that one. I don't. I've mentioned on other podcasts why I don't do baneful magic personally, but that's a whole nother episode.
Yeah.
When I do my rituals, it depends what I'm doing. Like if I'm working with Lucifer, I'm doing a like something like in like Awakening Lucifer or Rites of Lucifer or something. I'll do a little bit more for my preparation. I'll probably get up and I'll just get in the shower for like 15 or 20 minutes and just relax with a hot shower and kind of get into that mindset and come out and do a banishing and cast an actual circle and do what I have to do. Now, don't get me wrong. I really think that, to me, from doing Gallery of Magick stuff and doing more traditional stuff, circle really doesn't offer protection. I'll be honest with just about anybody at this point. If you think that drawing a little circle is going to keep out a demonic entity that's thousands years old, that has like the energy force to go just about anywhere it fucking wants, then you're completely blind to like what's happening out there. Okay. I mean, that's just the way that it is. Okay. Because I've had people say like, but these Gallery of Magic books, they don't tell you to draw a circle. And I'm like, yeah, like what's the problem? And it's like, well, how am I supposed to work with demons and magic if I'm not casting a circle? I'm like, the circle doesn't mean. I'm like,
because
doesn't mean anything.
Because traditionally, when we're talking about like working with most of what we learn in the Western mystery tradition, as you already know, as you gentlemen know already, it comes from a more Arabic and Christian perspective, which is why in the Goetia or the Goetia, it has, use of the Tetragrammaton, but you don't need to work with the Tetragrammaton to invoke infernals. You don't have to. That was because back then they were a lot more Abrahamic, Christianized. It was more Islamic and whatnot, so they would use those names. Now, someone out there who's a traditionalist may get pissed at me, if I say the names of the Tetragrammaton don't really work. They do work. They actually do work if you do it properly. But again, it's gonna depend on the magician. But you don't have to use those to get in touch with infernals. You don't. And anyone who says you have to, they're full of it. You don't have to.
No.
I mean, I'm sure that we've done that. I know you have, Steve. You've done it without doing those things. And
if you look at the Success Magic book that Damon Brand put out, I mean that deals with Enochian magic. If you look at traditional Enochian magic, it's difficult, it's complex, it's hard to navigate. In a lot of cases, you need a lot of special tools, but in some cases, you need like specialized furniture for shit, and it's like the Gallery of Magic it's like they took that information and they simplified it in such a way that it's like, okay, now the chaos magician can like tap into that if they like really want to. And and I've explained that to people who are traditional Enochian practitioners, and like that's like a bunch of bullshit. There's like no way you're not doing Enochian magic then, because you don't have this and that. And I'm like, well, I mean, then they explain that to Damon Brand because he wrote the book, and this is what I'm doing, and it's working. So either I'm just like delusional.
I mean, Enochian magic also wasn't a complete system when John D. and Edward Kelly were doing it. It wasn't. It was a structure that was being pioneered at that time. It wasn't a complete system yet. It wasn't like the Kabbalah, which is a complete system of magic. That doesn't have to be pioneered, really. I mean, you could take pieces of it and the most powerful and direct technology from that, and it will work. But with like Enochian magic, it just wasn't all the way. It wasn't finished. It was almost like a screenwriter writing a movie, and it just never getting completed.
Like a primer. It was almost like a primer or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so
like,
a lot of
here's the basics, and now it's
exactly. Yeah, because the Golden Dawn, like Chicken Cicero, they were saying in one of their writings that the Enochian system, it didn't offer a lot of protection, I guess. I don't know from experience. I've done very little with anything Enochian. I've done some stuff. I've done a lot more with the Fabian script, like in my practice. I haven't done too much past calling watchtowers in the Enochian system, to be honest, and just some of the stuff that La Milo Duquette, some of his work. I've done a little bit of that though, but it's very, very simple. But yeah, anyway, not to babble on too much. It wasn't a complete system back then, so
No.
the purists that want it's kind of like in the pagan community with Reconstructionists, right? Someone who practices heathenry, they want to do it exactly the way, and we don't fucking know because they didn't write everything down back then.
Yeah,
So
people who do like Dardanian witchcraft or something. It's like it's like here's a purist type of system kind of thing.
And believe me, I kind of had a little bit of that mindset before, a little bit to a degree with certain things, you want, but that was because of my martial arts brain. I wanted like as close to the real thing as possible. But what it turned out for me personally was that I just wanted the best tech for the results. And that's what this is all about in the end of the day. We just want to get results. Yeah. That's what matters to us.
I think that's one way. I think the other, what I like about the GOM, and you guys said a lot of great things, but one thing I like is I think it's a great way to once again sample that, where I approach it where it's like, if I'm not satisfied with the GOM style of it, that model of magic just may not be something that I'm going to want to wind up exploring to begin with. I mean, it's a little, this doesn't really work so well with the Out of Blackthorn book, but just for example's sake, like I'd say, like, look, if you don't like Masterworks of Chaos Magic, right? You don't see there's something there, I probably am not going to say that you probably shouldn't be reading Labyrinth Psychonaut for the sake of your own time. Get a feel for it, then look at, while I love Andrea's work, obviously, then look at Hands-on Chaos Magic to build off those rituals, things like that, try that, and then look into the Olympian spirits, because you really will save yourself a lot of time and headache that way. The other thing I wanted to say, just on the whole, can you do GOM success magic? Because I'm looking at that, is I just found that to be very, well, of course the ceremonial magician are going to say you have to do it this way. Mm-hmm. And of course the chaos magician are going to say, oh, no, you don't have to. And I just look at it, those are how both sides are just fucking trained to think about the thing. Mm-hmm. It's not true or false. What I personally like to do and want to share with the audience is, I like the compromise. So am I going to build a freaking wooden chair? Absolutely not. But that doesn't mean I can't go pick up a couple candles, pick up, I think I got a couple just like little angel statues to put up when I'm doing it. To just so I'm still entertaining the idea of building an altar somehow without going too crazy. We also have to remember that a lot of this stuff could have been made up just to keep people from doing it, which is what I personally suspect. And B, people's lives, not everyone's going to like this, didn't have them doing 18 million frigging unnecessary things back then. Like if you farmed, you did some magic, you went to bed. There was none of this soccer mom Facebook checking bullshit that redirects our focus all the time. So
that's truth to that. I mean, ceremonial magic was, for the longest time, was really mostly for, I hate to say this word, but I'll say it, mostly for the elite, the upper class. They had a lot more time to invest in doing things like the Abramelin ritual, which takes you fucking 6 months to do, having to be away from home and no families and whatnot. And most people, they work a lot. So most people who did magic as commoners were what we would call today as pagans, and they did mostly
like folk magic.
Exactly. I was gonna say folk. They did folk magic. Folk magic doesn't take that long to do. Generally, it's a lifestyle. You can burn some herbs, say some prayers, and do some other things, and then you're done. You can carry a bag of herbs with you or something. You don't really, ceremonial magic. It was kind of like comparing, learning to play chess at the park with an old man who's good at playing chess versus going to an Ivy League university where you're going to be spending years there learning some stuff. It was sort of like that, So being a modern I'm speaking for myself now, a modern practitioner at the very beginning, getting into this work from a ceremonial magic end and getting initiations and empowerments, things like that. It was quite different. It did require some time. It did require a shift in lifestyle, not as authentic and the way they used to do it 100+ years ago. It wasn't like that. But I think, as I said before, I've had no problems blending the work that I do with the Gallery of Magick. Had no problem at all. Just having an altar, having what I don't do super cosplay anyway. I mean, my setup's pretty simple, so probably not that impressive, to be honest.
Well, it's I think it's what works for you. For me, it's they make it so easy. So let's expand on it. Let's add some detail. Maybe I'll do sword banish from one book, use a word of power for the intention, make a sigil, enchant the sigil with something else from a different book, and then like build a holistic ritual. I think that's personally how I like to do it. But
yeah, I like to do it. I like to do magic now, not just in my ritual space, but everywhere. If I go to the woods by myself or by the river where I live or somewhere, I like to be able to I kind of like in the words of Damien Eccles, I'm going to quote Damien Eccles for a moment. You should do magic. And like if you were dropped off in the middle of a deserted island by yourself with no tools, you should be able to do magic. And I really like that. I like that quote quite a bit. I see all the other things like the wands and the robes as those are correspondences, and I'm definitely not against that. I do have some tools. I have some tools like in back of me. Nobody can see them, but I'm not crazy with them. I don't have like a whole lot. I don't. I'll still do magic without them, and I do quite often without them.
I think tools are fine. I use them when I need them. I don't like to rely on them. And I think, first off, Steve, I just wanted to thank you for what you said about the circle. I needed that laugh, and I think the world needs to say that. But the same thing with the tools. It's like, do you really think you're binding a 1,000-year-old spirit into your little rainbow wand here, or you're going to deflect it with some Metatron necklace here? Come on.
I do have some stories that involve tools, not of my own though, but I've seen things like Tibetan porbas that were enchanted with a certain amount of energy, but it wasn't like a person sat there for 15 minutes or an hour enchanting it. It was because these used to belong to certain people, certain individuals, and so there is like an energetic connection with certain things. But going with what you were saying, like you definitely. A demon could be in front of you, a wrathful or a kind of like a unfriendly entity could be before you. And if you just wave like a fucking wooden wand, it's not going to necessarily do anything to it. It's like, get the fuck out of my way with that. What are you going to do with that?
Oh, you wave that shit at me again, I'll beat your ass.
Yeah, I'll beat you with it. Over the head. Yeah.
I just think a lot of that is practical, like state changes too in our modern world. Like I think where New Age goes wrong is there's this whole elaborate game of outthinking the thinking machine. I don't want to go down a rabbit hole here, but these are state changes. These are also psychological triggers and associations where it's something like if sneezing is magic and you say, oh, I'm going to be a millionaire, you sneeze and you get a lot of money, great. But then next, you get dust, you say, oh, fuck my life, and you sneeze. Well, now you've essentially just cursed yourself. So those are I find to be the uses of tools, but they can work for and against you.
Wasn't that like actually isn't that like an actual Irish belief or something like that? Like if you sneeze 3 times and you don't tell the person God bless you, like it makes it easier for a spirit to steal that person's soul or something like that. I heard something like that. It's been like a long time.
But it wouldn't surprise me.
I never heard that one. I wouldn't be surprised. I heard it was they thought somebody was going to die when they heard it, so there was like, oh, God bless you kind of thing, or maybe I guess those some people sneeze really really robustly, and it almost sounds like there's a fucking demon coming out of them or some shit. So it could have been some just weird reaction. But anyway, here just going back to Gallery of Magick. This is a compound question. Are there any favorite books you guys have from the Gallery of Magick that you would say, whether it's a style of magic you want to learn or something you want to accomplish, this is a must read, especially for, I'd say, a lot of magician on my channel, probably more at my level. We're kind of more still initiates or maybe intermediates, and that's fine. But are there any books there you recommend? And also, are you working through any right now? Steve, do you have any? Or
well, usually when I usually try to tell people that are new to the practice, the easiest types of magic to do are baneful magic. If you can like really get into touch with your angry side, it's really easy to do. But the problem with baneful magic, of course, long term, it's, do you really want to be wasting your time and energy on somebody who is really just a minor annoyance when you could really be building something beautiful for yourself? So baneful magic is relatively easy to do. The other ones are love magic is easy to do, but it's easy to fuck up as well. If you're not careful, you could be attracting like the wrong people. And then money magic is always, everybody needs money. And it's actually usually like one of the main focuses for a lot of practitioners is they're like, I need a little more money in my life. Let's see if I can't do like some type of ritual in order to bring more money for like whatever I need. So for me, I personally like the Magical Cash book in that sense that it's relatively simple. You can do it like in like 10, 11 days. I've had great success with it in the past, and I've shared that a lot on my channel concerning that. But after long term, you really need to find out if you're having problems with money magic, it's not materializing. You have to kind of figure out if you have issues with money, like subconsciously. I mean, and we'll get into that in a little bit later in the discussion. But beyond that, I've actually decided to buy the Holy Guardian Angel book, the Magical Divinity. I haven't quite gotten it yet, but this week after I get paid, I think I'm gonna probably pick it up. At least a Kindle copy. Other than that, I can't think of too many other books. Right offhand, Magical Riches is fine if you're needing something like a little more steady, like as far as income comes for money. And wealth magic is really something like long term, So depending on where you're at in your life, one is going to be more beneficial for you than the other. Like I wouldn't recommend you start with wealth magic first thing. If you work at McDonald's, you're not going to benefit from it. Whereas like something like the Magical Cash book, it's going to do like a little bit more for you, or Magical Riches book is going to do a little bit more for you.
Now, I don't want to spoil this because I do want to wrap up with your mindset shift thing here. But I just wanted to elaborate on a point you made up. I didn't try the Baneful Magic, but one thing I really like about the GOM is they encourage you to start with the lack of the thing. We're not doing this new age thing where we're pretending that's not an occurrence here and transmuting that. And I think the whole idea is to feel better about your situation when you're done, which to me is super important. And even while I love chaos magic, I think, and not all of them, but in chaos magic, the thing too, just trying to bypass that occurrence by just slipping things past the conscious mind all the time. So I do like that they're big on that feeling transmutation. I think that's important. But the other question I want to have here is, obviously, as we're all content creators, and I have clients that are looking to start blogs and things and become content creators. If someone, let's say, just worked a day job, a McDonald's, worked at a Starbucks or whatever, a Petco, or even, a union job, a janitor job, a decent job with benefits, which one of those books would you recommend to maybe grow their online platform, Steve? Would you recommend Riches, the Cast Book, Wealth Magic? Would you consider that long-term enchantment?
Again, I would do the Cash Book and Magical Riches. Like in the past when I did Magical Cash Book, and again, I've mentioned this on my channel a number of times. It's when my success with that was when I was working in a position, like if you work in a position where you can easily obtain something like overtime or commissions, like through your job or something like that, the Magical Cash Book is probably going to work relatively well for you in that type of sense. Like when I was using that, when I first started using that, and I was working in a resort and I was earning commissions at the front desk for people that would come in and stay a couple nights, and I was making commissions off that. I was making like $500 in commissions every month for 5 or 6 months straight when nobody else was making commissions at all. And they're like, how the fuck are you like making all these commissions? And I'm like, well, and I've mentioned that before. It's like, it's magic, and you remember that, Rodrick. I think I told you that. I think I said that.
I love that story.
And nobody got it. Nobody got it because they didn't understand like what the fuck I meant until like I mentioned it around this one guy who was a practicing Wiccan, and then he's like, I think I understand what you're talking about, And then, but so in that type of sense, it's great, And even now, like I can pull up the cash book and go, well, I need an extra, $300 this month for something, even though in like right now, I think I'm doing relatively well in my life, where I'm at. But and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, we got overtime this weekend, oh, awesome, great. I get, that's like an extra $200 easy, like right there, or little things like that will just like pop up into your life, and you have to be open to that type of stuff. If you're looking to attract more money, you have to be open to the possibilities of where that money is going to come from. For instance, a couple of months back, I did a little bit of work with Suntalak out of the Book of Azazel, which is out of Gallery of Magick stuff. It's EA co-editing. And I had gotten like my little Suntalak coin that I purchased off of from the Garretts off of their website. And over a course of a couple of days, I was it's like I just had it with me, and I was just kind of like invoking him quietly, and like wanting, because like for like a number of years I had like all the student loan debt on me from a school that basically misrepresented themselves to me, and I'm talking like $90,000 worth of student loans, And for like a long time, I had like my application in to dismiss all my student loans from the school, and the Department of Education is just like taking their sweet ass time to like decide like who gets to dismiss their student loans and who doesn't, and blah blah blah. And then it's like after a couple days of just invoking him, it's like literally, it's like I got home from work that day, I opened my email, and there was a message from the Department of Education. Oh yeah, by the way, your application's accepted. We're going to get like right to work on dismissing all your student loans.
Okay.
I mean, granted, that's again outside of Gallery of Magick. It's some, you're dealing with something, a little more. Suntalak is actually a demon, like under Azazel, actually, the first demon under Azazel. So they say that Azazel's kingdom was created because of Suntalak, mainly because of Azazel's vision for his kingdom to become to fruition, but because of Suntalak as well. So that was kind of a bonus. I mean, and the other one was actually just like last week. I got like $5,000 in like medical bills from back in March when I had like a bunch of allergies. Like nobody could figure out like all these food allergies that I had. I kept having like breaking out in hives and shit. And I'm like making payments, and then like out of the blue, I actually did a ritual a couple weeks ago, and the hospital calls me out of the blue, and they're like, "Did anybody tell you that we have this like forgiveness program? Like, if you make under this much money, we can dismiss like 85% of what you owe." And I'm like, "No, nobody ever told me that."
Wow.
And and it's like right there. It's like, okay, great. It's like I just got rid of like $4,000 in medical bills. So it's like you might not get money, like physical money in some sense. You might save money somewhere, or like little things like that will just pop up out of the blue. It's like, that it's like where you owe money, but then they're gonna like dismiss it.
Right.
And you kind of have to be open to that. And a lot of people think that money can just come from from one source, when it can come from like multiple places. If you're a writer, for instance, and you do money magic, you could get a script in a movie and a documentary. You might do audio, might take like an audio book or take a book and transfer it to like audio and make money that way. And there's like so many ways that you can make money. You just have to, or that money can come into your life or affect you, that you have to be open to that. And it's not just going to come from like one area.
Right.
So,
no, I actually thank you for psyching that out, because one complaint I get, and I believe David Brand says it in one of his books, is, sometimes this will appear as money you don't have to spend. And what I tell my clients, my guys, is like, pay attention to what you buy. Are there more 10% sales? Put that in a jar, make it noticeable. What people are doing is they're saving money, and I don't want to go on a rant here. They're just spending the same money on crap, and then they're blaming the magic. And he specifically tells you that, like, it will come up in ways you don't have to spend. And for me, that's great too. And I'd say that's very direct, because that's probably why a lot of people do money magic in certain cases, especially cash book, which is a lot of firefighting in a lot of ways. They want that money so they don't have to, so they can buy more of something, essentially,
Right,
and get more value for.
they need something like more immediate.
Right. Or sometimes you get an idea, and that idea later on, you get on that project a couple of years later, and the money manifests. So you need to be doing the opportunities too. If you have a job, they might call you in for overtime. You need to take that. You need to take that all into account. I'm not big on the whole lotto ticket magic. It can happen. Doesn't seem like the best way to go about it. Well, that being said, I want to move on to you, Rodrick. Are there any GOM books you personally have had great experiences you recommend based on your practice? And are there any you're checking out right now?
Yeah. So I haven't worked with the money magic and the magical riches and the magical cash book that you guys are talking about. I mean, I've heard of them, of course, but I haven't worked out of those. The GOM books I've worked out of was because I've already explained what kind of magic I do a lot. I do practice some forms of manifestation. I hate to say low magic, but money, magic that you need when you need something. But I just haven't worked out of those. But yes, I do. So I've had great success with Adam Blackthorne's Masterworks of Chaos. I like that book a lot, especially the Orphic spirits in there, the Olympian spirits. My favorite part of the book, I mean, that was what drew me to the book initially. I thought it was written in a very light and kind of fun way. And I just like that approach to work with Olympian spirits. But prior to that, I have not worked with Olympian spirits. I have worked with what you can call Orphic spirits by the Greek names, but not those particular. So I've had great success with those. Like if I needed to connect with like a client of some sort, for like a business deal, I've used that book for that, and it worked for me. I had great success with that. Also, I've had great success working with Damien Brand's books on angels. I thought they were very helpful at the time, and So as far as what I'm working with right now, Magical Destiny, I'm reading that. I'm going through it very slowly right now. There's about 7 protocols in there. I've just done 2, and well, actually 3 really, but mostly just 2 of them. But yeah, that's what I'm doing. So
Okay. And you were doing the Magical Destiny too, Steve, right?
Well, I haven't picked it up yet.
Oh, okay.
Again, I'm thinking of picking up like later on this week after after getting paid before the holiday. But yeah, I'm definitely looking into that because there are there's only a few other books I could think of that teach on how to get in touch with your HGA. I think the other one is like Holy Diamond from Frater
Wait,
UD.
Frater, I have that one. I've read that one as well. I don't know, Frater, not Frateros. I'm forgetting the guy's name right now, but
I thought it was Frater UD, but it could be another one, another
yeah,
person. But I know that there's there's more of like a traditional way to do it, which can take like a very fairly extended
the
amount of
Abramelin
time.
ritual.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then
yeah. I didn't mean to cut you off, Steve. Sorry.
no, that's okay. And then it's probably something that I wouldn't mind picking up at a later date after I check out Magical Destiny, because I like to get a different perspective on from another author, like on a similar topic, and that's usually what I do. Like when I buy books, when I buy a subject on a subject matter I haven't learned it before, I'll get 2 or 3 books, all from different authors, get different perspectives on it, and then either go with one that I like or somehow kind of fit them all together and work it into like type of my own type of way. Um, and obviously, not everybody has the money to be able to buy 2, 3, 4 books every month or
Right.
something like that. Um, Again, I'm actually I like where I'm at in my life. I'm a single person. I make about $40,000 a year now, in my manufacturing job, which I just didn't have before, really, in the past. The closest I had to that was when I was a housekeeping supervisor. I made a little less than what I do now, but I was working 80 hours a week, like 3 or 4 months out of the year. I was working like long hours, and that just totally, like, I don't want to go back to that type of lifestyle. But
That's not a way to live.
no, I'm at that again. I'm at that point in my life that I'm at that point of wealth accumulation. It's like I have more money coming in than the money that's going out. So, I'm at that point where I'm saving in excess, a good amount every month, and I'm fairly comfortable with that. And even if I just keep doing that over the next year, I am thinking about, like, do I want to like buy a house, or do I like want to do I want to do a car, even though I'm doing like public transportation still, and I have a lot of people asking me, it's like, why don't you have a fucking car, dude? It's like, you've got like how much in the bank? And I'm like, what I'm doing right now works for me, man. I don't. It's like, why do I want to pick up a car and pick up extra expenses? It's like, you got maintenance, you got insurance, you got gas, you got to deal with all this other bullshit.
Don't listen to other people. They're gonna try and convince you to buy like something really expensive because it's nice.
Yeah,
bullshit,
and it's like, and why would I want to do that when it's like, everything's like good right now. It's like public transportation gets me from point A to point B. It gets me back home, and like, until that's not working for me, it's like, why you don't need to fix something that's not broken,
right?
So
yeah, don't listen to consumers, man. They just have you spend way more money than you need to spend. Which is a lot of people's problem. Like, the money comes in and they're just buying all this bullshit they don't need all the time. Like, you need a car, but they say, well, can you buy this I
I don't know, this Kia. People hate Kia. So let me use a different example. This Honda over here, it's like, oh, it's a nice Honda. It's a good Civic, and they're like, just get this upgrade to this Tesla that it came out last year. You'll save $300 buying this one as opposed to the model that came out right before that. But then you're paying like an additional $500 a month on this, and it's just battery, maintenance on it, and it's stupid. That's why I don't pay from other people sometimes.
I totally agree. I know Steve wants to talk about mindset shifts at the end to close this one off, so I don't want to let the cat off the bag, but out of the bag. But that is something I noticed too with the GOM stuff too is, and a tip for my new age audience is take some time, journal the things that you used to buy that you don't need more since you started this practice, and you'll be amazed to see how much you're either saving or redistributing into things like magic book courses, self-development, where even if your monetary gains don't seem to be changing, I would say that is a sign of change. We're putting things into we're getting a higher ROI, or realizing, yeah, I don't need that new car. I don't need to buy the fucking iPhone every year, and all this stuff. That's your jam. That's your jam. I'm not knocking it. For me, it was not counterintuitively. Do I need to buy every Gallery of Magick book under the sun? Do I need to buy all these magic courses? Probably not, based on where I am in my journey. I've got enough right now to keep me busy. Now, from there, I had a very interesting question. I'm interested to hear both your guys' thoughts on. Why do you guys feel that the Gallery of Magick books, strictly the Gallery of Magick books, and maybe I did something right or wrong here, but I think this is a consensus, why they seem to be better than the competition at a quite noticeable degree? And what I mean by this is there's this other company, The Power of Magic, and these books, Henry Archer's 7 Occult Money Rituals. I think we were talking about this on the warm-up, Steve.
Yeah.
I don't know if Lucifer and the Hidden Demons is Power of Magic. I haven't checked that one out, but these books look like the Gallery of Magick. They're essentially the same concept when you look at them, and they seem to be ineffective, or as some people have said, just straight up backfire in their face, where it doesn't seem to be the case with the Gallery of Magick. And so to speak, I guess, is there a way we can kind of pop open the hood here on this vehicle and take a look and draw conclusions as to why? Because I find that fascinating.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of noticed shortly after I was buying Gallery of Magick books, I started finding books by Henry Archer. I found a couple of his books, like Angel Sigils and Calls and stuff like that, and like Angelic Overlords and whoever, like, these other authors are. I'm not dissing them for anything, but I found that shortly after Gallery of Magick started releasing some of their books, other authors started coming out with their take on some of their subject matters. They're condensing books, whereas, like, you have like Damon Brand's book, 72 Angels of Magic, and then you have Angels of Alchemy, for instance. Well, you have like one author who took like both of those books and like mashed them together into one, so that you can get basically two for the price of one. I noticed that some people, when they put these books out, I think they were some of them put them out like rather quickly. I don't know if they were just like, okay, I'm going to take all this stuff that works from Damon Brand's books, and then I'm going to draw my own sigils and then call it a day, or if they really did the work, because a lot of the stuff that you see from Gallery of Magick, they say, like, at least when they talk about their stuff, whether it's true or not, I don't know. I would imagine that it's true, though. They say, like, we've practiced this stuff, or we've put this into practice over X amount of time. Like, I know, like Magical Divinity, I was reading the synopsis on that on Amazon or whatever, and they were talking about how, like, they've been not the word researching, but they've been experimenting with it and tinkering with it over like a period of years and years and years, and fine tuning it to the point that it's effective. It works. Whereas these other people, I don't know. Like I said, did they just like wake up one day and decide that they were going to write a book, and then like 3 days later, it's like, aha, I'm gonna like self-publish it on Amazon or something like that, or I don't know.
Right.
That's my take on it. And ever since then, more people have come out with their takes on angelic magic and different things. And to me, like I said, if it's not broken, you don't need to fix it. So I mean, if you got Gallery Magic books and they're working for you, why do you really need to go out and spend money on other books?
I know for me, it became a thing where, like, when I look on Amazon, I just like to know, because if it's not by the Gallery of Magic Publishing Company, I really don't have much interest in the book anymore. So,
Right.
but like when it's the comparable, like Power of Magic, stuff like that, and maybe I'll have a different view on that. But Rodrick, why do you think that is? Do you have any insights on that as to why? I don't know if you've done the Pepsi challenge here, so to speak.
I mean, I'm pretty much with both of you. I just think it's just a result of marketing, as as all things, because we live in like a very commercial kind of culture. So when something becomes popular, something that works, there will always be inevitably someone coming out with a similar product to compete with it. I just think it's a result of it. I can't judge the quality of the books because I haven't worked with those books.
Okay.
I've looked online at some of the reviews for some of those books out of my own curiosity, and it just seems like, I don't hate to say knockoffs. It just sounds like someone just came up with another book. And like Steve said, when you read at least the books I've read from Gallery of Magic, the Adam Blackthorne, the Masterworks of Chaos, and Damon Brand, they give the impression that their tech has been revised a lot over decades. So they would try, and when I first picked up the Angels of Magic book, that was one of the things that impressed me reading it. In the foreword, he talks about how they added. I mean, I don't want to give too much of it away to viewers who haven't tried it, but adding this call and that call and this visualization because it works better, and we figured out over it. It's just something the way that he wrote it that gave the impression of, I can't prove it, but I would like have to believe it. I think because it's worked for me. And with the other books, it's just a result of marketing. Somebody comes up with something. A band becomes popular with a certain style. They're playing the guitar a certain way. It's inevitable there's going to be another band that's going to come off and do the same thing just to try and shift attention away on that. So we're always going to have that. I mean, I think that as far as magic is concerned in general, we have hundreds of years, if not thousands of years of our ancestors and around the world giving us correspondences, telling us how things work in nature and how we can connect to that. Now, how many ways of inventing the wheel can we do? I don't know. I don't know how many times we can really do that, but we have more than enough out there to last us multiple lifetimes. So I just think it's pure marketing, in my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah.
And without asking you to give your stuff away, which we're going to, sounds like you are a proponent of this Magical Destiny book, contacting the HGA. If anyone else were interested in Uncertain, it's a thumbs up, green light in your mind.
Yeah. So far, I'm probably about almost a third of the way into the book. Really, I had to kind of go back and backtrack a little bit because, like I said, things like this, especially when it comes to the HGA or the Holy Daemon, I go very, very slow. This is a subject that I've been fascinated with the entirety of my magical practice, my personal spiritual practice. The entire time I've been on this path, I've been interested in this. So I bought the Holy Daemon book before, maybe about 2 years ago or so, I guess. It's hard to keep track of time sometimes. And then it's not like every time there's a book on the subject, because it's not. I haven't run across a whole lot of books on the subject. Just different interpretations of the Abramelin ritual, which I have not done. Probably not likely to do it unless Andre Vitamus and I do get together and go somewhere in Western Canada and do what he was talking about. We were talking about if we get lucky and get a movie deal or something, then we would take like 6 months off and go somewhere and do it. So if that happens, I'll let you know like how that went. But I do approve of the book, and the reason that I do approve of the book is because it's straight, it's direct. I know a lot of traditionalists are going to hate it and say it's bullshit. Once again, I'd like to throw a certain Facebook discussion group under the bus. I won't mention their names, but they are a Ceremonial Magic group on Facebook, where one of the moderators from Britain told me in a PM that he thought the Gallery of Magic books were shit, and that they were just a load of bollocks, and he didn't recommend doing it. But the guy's a fucking snob. This is for you, buddy. Love and light, you motherfucker. Sorry. Okay.
I don't mind.
Sorry. The guy was a complete jerk, man. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna call out as it is, man. I'm not gonna be Bodie right now. I'm gonna be like, it was just too hard, especially the fact that he didn't try it. You know what I mean? So
look, I know some really cool ceremonial magician, okay? But let's just face it, these guys just seem to like have the most adverse reaction to anything that is even the smallest inkling of a threat to their belief paradigm. So
I know
maybe
a lot of ceremonial magicians that are pretty awesome and open-minded, man, and that, I mean, like I said, I'm coming from that background, and I've been working with some of these books before over some years, but yeah, this is just one of those jackasses that just was judging everything in his path. I don't want to make the ending of this stream about that, but yeah, it's a great book. What I like about Magical Destiny thus far is that even though there was a point in the beginning where it seems like he's getting kind of repetitive, and I get why he's doing that, because he doesn't want the reader to have this grandiose vision of what the Holy Daemon or HGA actually is. That's the big feeling I'm getting on why he's doing that. Now, this, as again, I'm gonna repeat myself, this is a subject that I've been attracted to the entirety of my whole spiritual and magical practice. So this is something that I take very, very seriously. So when I bought that book the night it was released, I got the digital copy, started reading it right away, and I'm reading it and I'm getting the impression that he's achieved this. And this is not something that is, even though it's from a modern context, it's not, I don't think that he's dumbing it down too much or at all, in my opinion. He's just throwing some simple techniques here and saying, just do it, get the experience. He doesn't even call it knowledge and conversation. He just calls it full contact. He changed the wording a little bit, and that's fine. Because let's face it, when it comes to this particular magical topic of the HGA, it seems very unreachable for a lot of people. I know a lot of purist magicians out there, and they call this a part of their great work. And when you if you ever read the Abramelin ritual, it's just too fucking intimidating. Like who has time for that in this day and age in the 21st century, going into 2022 pretty soon. Just no one's going to take 6 months off work and go do that. It's just impressive if you can do that, but not even Jeff Bezos is going to, well, he's probably not going to do it anyway, but I don't even think these kind of billionaire guys would even put that kind of time into something like that,
well, let's see, contact my HGA or go back into space. Let's see. I'm going to go back into space.
Shaped rocket. Yeah.
To the audience, I just want to say we're all friends or brothers, so this happens on the cast, but Rodrick, I just want to say, poke a little bit of respectful fun at you. I can see the general really is bringing out the rebellious side in you, and I like it.
Thanks. I've been spending a lot more time with them, so it's coming out even more.
Hey, but Steve, I had a question for you. Are you still doing Success Magic? what do you think of that one? How's that one working out for
You know,
Without-
I kind of stopped around. Like I finished the first part, or like the first 19 rituals. I know that there's
Okay.
like what 44 in the book or something like that, and then I really haven't progressed after that point. I'm thinking about actually going back and starting over, but instead of doing like one every week, like I might kind of blow through like the first 19 a little bit quicker, being that I already, have already been through that experience. I might do like 2 a week, and then start going to like 1 a week after that as I get into like the new content back. I really just I haven't finished it, to be honest with you, but I like the content of it. I think anybody can benefit from Success Magic, regardless of what career path you're really in. What you take out of it is going to be, what you bring to the table, more or less, as well as just past experiences. But I think a lot of people, not just people in business, like business related, can benefit from it. Everybody can.
Okay, cool. If it makes you feel better, I started this year, and I think I'm up to like ritual 5 or 6, and that was is anything happening? And it was like, yeah, there's some shit changing. I'm not really sure what. I know what I like about it is I love that idea, I guess, because I started with New Age. To me, Magic's very much a focus inertia game of not having to have these big elaborate desires and looking for problems in your life just for the sake of doing magic. Just say, look, by doing this, you will align to your success. You will find some aspect, I guess we say dharma, true will, or I just want to say some purpose here that speaks to you, that exciting yet extremely scary life pursuit where it's like, I don't know what it is, but I got to try this. And eventually it works into, I don't know what it is, but whatever I'm working on here is going somewhere. And I really love that feeling. So I was just curious. Thank you for sharing. And yeah, I would say you could definitely just do all 19 again, but that is a pretty good book. And from what I understand, these are the last 2 Gallery of Magic books they're going to make, right?
From what I understand, well, at least with Damon Brand, this is how he's going to end. He was supposedly going to end his Gallery of Magic writing career with this book, yeah. And it's the first one that's not necessarily aimed at material manifestations, which is interesting because the whole theme of it has been like practical magic, and this is not really a practical magic related book, so quite interesting.
Yep. You might like the Success one too, because it's not really aimed at practical manifestation. So it seems like that he's ending on that trend, which is nice. So
yeah, okay.
Which supposedly I heard they're making an anthology of all of it, which I guess would be nice because it almost seems like, I don't know the order. Andre and I were talking about this when he was on my channel about getting your human needs met first, then doing the great work. So that would actually, I guess, in theory, be a great place to end it. And also, if this works out, it's like, I would assume for the magician, where do you kind of go beyond that, right? There's no reason to keep going respectfully,
Yeah.
But
yeah, that sounds practical though. Take care, if you want to get into magic, take care of your material needs. I mean, that's where probably 99% of us start anyway. When we get on this path, we learn. Most people I meet, they get involved in practicing magic to get something materially met.
From my experience. Yeah, if you look at basic psychology and the Maslow pyramid, and when you think about it, the bottom part of the pyramid is meeting your basic necessities, like as far as like food, shelter, stuff like that. Once you've achieved those types of things, then obviously the higher you go up on the pyramid, it's like self-actualization. So yeah, it basically the same thing, just by a standpoint of magic view or occult view. Yeah.
No, I agree. I know, or even in the other scenario, I actually did have, I'm not bragging, but like, even though I was doing New Age, I was actually projecting, connecting to higher consciousness. And it was like, okay, I have all these great ideas and I don't have a cent or any of the fucking material to make this happen. So it was just fucking obnoxious for a while. So I would say that is a good place to end it off. Now your foundation's safe, so you don't have to stop. And I'm sure there will be roadblocks anyway. There always are with magic or the illusion of them. But to close this one off, Steve, you wanted to talk a little bit, or you want to shift gears a little bit, talk about something a little bit more meta that I think is in the Gallery of Magick. This is something we've been talking about. Rodrick, you were free to add too. I'm sure you're gonna have great wisdom, but you want to talk about mindset shifting here. I know this is a big term. Chaos Magician used this term, belief shifting, and while I love chaos magic, I can't stand this whole notion in the practice. I think it's a fool's errand. The New Age talks about this. So I just want to start by saying, what is this thing to you? Because everyone has a different idea. And why is it important? How do you think the Gallery of Magick or these style books can help somebody execute on it beyond an intellectual concept?
Okay. Well, my particular concept or idea of mindset shifting. We all know that I'm big on financial magic and money magic type stuff. Like I said, it's like one of the easiest things you could do out there. But it can also be complicated based on what your beliefs are centered around magic, okay, or not magic, money. We as we grow up and we're in our society, we have our different classes. We have our poor working class and middle class and upper class and wealthy and whatnot. And everybody has a different belief around money or what they were taught about what money is, okay, what it represents to us. And the problem is that with like poor and middle class people, we don't like to talk about money, except for when we seem to be lacking it. Okay, when we're lacking it because we don't have enough in order to pay our bills or whatever, we need something. We always seem to be complaining about having enough, and then, which is a little bit of a problem. And this is why people who are wealthy kind of like they have a different mindset perspective, like the 1%ers. They have a different mindset because wealthy people study money and they study wealthy people, and that's like part of their success. If you look at somebody who's wealthy, they're reading biographies of people that are wealthy before them, Henry Ford and we'll say, I don't want to say Donald Trump particularly. I think he's kind of like lost his money and gained it back a little bit. He inherited his money more than anybody. But the true people like Buffett and those other ones, they're reading that type of stuff and they're developing that mindset. So, but I want to go back to the poor and middle class. So when you lack money and you're approaching it from a point of lack, it's hard to obtain it and it's hard to hold on to it. And again, we have all these people around us every day as we're growing up teaching us what they know about money. It's not to say that they're wrong. It's just that they're passing on what they were taught by their grandparents and great grandparents and whatnot. But our parents and our friends, work associates, our teachers, our counselors, our pastor, our society, our culture, everybody has an effect on our beliefs about money. And you always hear these things like money doesn't grow on trees. Technically, it does in a sense if you think about it, because it's really well. The paper that's made from it is like really cloth actually, but the Crane Paper Company, fun fact, and I mentioned this in my recent video, is the one company that makes the cloth that money is printed on. It's 25% linen, 75% cotton actually. But anyways, money doesn't grow on trees. Who do you think I am? Do you think I'm Rockefeller? Time is money. The more popular one, money is the root of all evil, which I've covered in my recent video as well. That's not what the Bible says, okay, regarding money. And I'll tell you what it is in just a moment.
TV shows that we've watched in the past. Again, like when we were talking before we started this, Gilligan's Island is like the most popular one I like to use. The Howells, Thurston and Lovey Howell on Gilligan's Island. They were snooty, they were snobbish, they looked down on people that were, poorer than them, that, were not of the same lifestyle. All these things play an effect and affect us subconsciously in a way that it will play a role in how much money we have and if we're pushing it away or if we're attracting it. Okay, so if you see that every rich person is snooty and snobbish, you're not going to want to be snooty and snobbish because you're not going to want money because you're going to think it's going to make you snooty and snobbish. If you see that every wealthy person out there has made their fortune through dishonesty and criminal acts, you're going to push money away because you don't want people to see you as dishonest and as a criminal. Even though there have been people that have made their wealth in that type of sense. Well, if you really look at it, those people that have made their wealth in that respect generally don't hold on to it for very long. They end up losing it at one point or another. It's not something that has been built long term. They haven't built that relationship there. Okay, so money, and again, I do a lot of financial magic and I do a lot of financial talking on my channel. Is that money is a tool. We've invented that tool. Okay, money is simply a means of exchanging for goods and services, and the power that it has on us, or it doesn't have on us in some cases, is what we give it. And unfortunately, a lot of us give money too much power. We allow it to control us. And there's a way to take that back. And it's a way of changing your mindset. And one of the ways I did that was through the 72 Sigils of Power by Zena Blaze through the Gallery of Magick. If you look through that book, there's a lot of meditative work and a lot of results-based work. Each sigil has both. Okay, and you kind of have to like read it and understand how that sigil is going to affect you in a certain way or what it can be used for in a certain way. It's really kind of descriptive, and yet it's kind of like in your face as well at the same time. So I was able to take stuff like that and say, like, there's, I forget like the certain ones offhand, but like there's a sigil in there that says how to be more open to receiving. Oops, one moment, I got an alarm going off here. There. Or how to be more open to accepting money or accepting gifts. And you have to, like I said, really have to look into the book. But regarding, is money the root of all evil? If you believe that, then you're going to think that having more money makes you an evil person. And then again, you're going to reject it no matter how much you need it. Okay. And then you're going to complain for not having enough. So the actual phrase in 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 10 actually reads, "For the love of money is the root of all evil." And that was actually translated in the King James version of the Bible. Now I'm not going to butcher the German version of that. And again, I just kind of went into this with my last video. There is a gentleman by the name of Martin Luther, born in Germany between like 1483 and like, I think he died like 1530 something or what, 1534. He took like the Latin version of the Bible at that time, and this is where we get like a lot of the things that affect us, like the U.S. Constitution. Like they had the Reformation period during that time, which was resulting in people being persecuted for their religious beliefs and stuff, and that actually kind of plays a role into our First Amendment as the U.S. Constitution, freedom of religion. Anyways, this guy wrote to the Catholic Church that, hey,
Sorry.
Sorry. Bob my head to that, man. Whatever that is.
I got my anime ring
fine.
down there.
Do what you got to do, man.
So he it's just my transportation company saying that they're going to pick me up in a little bit for work tonight. Anyways, so he writes to the Catholic Church, and this is where we see a separation in Christianity, Western Christianity, between Catholicism and Protestant churches. Is that he writes to the church because this is where we get the historical significance to the sales of indulgence. Okay, if we know what the sales of indulgence is, it's like when the church was selling forgiveness to the people. So whether you're wealthy or you were poor, they were selling forgiveness. If you sin against God, you can give us money and we'll forgive you for your sins, right? So this is where this idea of for the love of money is the root of all evil, because the church was taking money from the rich and the poor, taking it and using it to fund art projects and building and expanding the church, at the time of, and that had that historical significance. Okay. And then the Pope at the time, Pope Leo X, basically expelled Martin Luther from the church at that point, and other shit happened. But William Tyndale, who was born just a little bit after that, ended up taking Martin Luther's translation from the German and translated from German to English. And it actually translates to greed is the root of all evil, not money, or not. If you look at the way that they put it, for the love of money is the root of all evil, basically they're saying that greed is the root of all evil, because they're saying that you're looking to covet something from somebody or take something from somebody forcibly for yourself. You're looking to hoard it, which is basically what the church was doing at the time. They were looking to hoard money, and they were coveting money for that sense. And he translated it into, for the covetousness of money is the root of all evil. Or for covetous is the root of all evil, which is as again essentially greed. So there's nothing wrong with having more money. We need it. We need it in order to pay our bills and everything else. Okay. And if you don't make this change, then obviously having more money is going to be, or getting more money, or having a surplus of more money is going to be a problem for you.
Okay. So,
go ahead.
Well, first off, I just want to put a little cheeky side note out there. Maybe one day, because I was looking into Lucifer in the Bible, but one day we should. I would love to do a talk with you guys on. I'm just going to put this bluntly. I don't think Christians even read their bloody fucking book, to be honest with you. I really don't. I was like, the Holy Grail's not in it, so like the elixir's not there, the villain's not there, this shit, but that
right,
that's not right now. What I do want to ask you, without putting you on the spot, because once again, I started with New Age. This is an important question with me. I'm honestly still working with my feedback loop, my inner dialogue with money and other things, success, even growing the YouTube channel, honestly, do you have any more on this actually changing beliefs? Simply because, and this is a bold question you're about to answer, we hear this all the time. Mm-hmm. And my thing is that we've heard it, it hasn't left conceptual land. And I've worked with coaches and other people, and they'll do that. Is this a belief game? I do that with people. That's the first step. But that to me is like using the thinking machine to outthink the thinking machine after a while. So you mentioned this on a Blaze book, which I'm going to have to check out. I haven't seen that one. But A, what is it in this book, without giving it away, that you feel makes a difference? And B, do you have any other, I guess, practical or holistic insight into this matter for changing beliefs? Because not only is this going to be important for people with money right now with what we're headed into, it's also I think something that needs to be addressed, because the feedback loop of scarcity is only going to get bigger the way the country's headed. So
yeah, well, I've done a video on this on my channel where I've talked about which sigils I've actually used for this process, and I forget the actual title of the video, but I've gone through and I've mentioned each one, like as far as what I've used to help change my mindset. Now that's been a number of years since I've done that. And I'm actually looking at kind of doing like a new update on that probably in a couple of weeks. But obviously this is something that you kind of want to return to probably after like every few years, kind of like, you know, like the Wealth Magic book. It's kind of like if you do Wealth Magic now, you go through like all the 7 rituals now. 5 years from now, you're going to be a totally different person, and when you repeat those rituals, you're going to get a totally different experience. So, this is probably going to be something that I'm going to end up approaching here relatively soon and kind of updating it. But I've already been through that work, and it has changed my view on money. Now, can it work? I believe it can work for a lot of people. I think some people may have to work at it a little bit harder than others, though. Okay. It really depends on where you're coming from. So with that said, you know, I think it's very beneficial. And how does it work? It really gets down into that subconsciousness. It makes you it was kind of a little bit, maybe a little bit easier for me. Like when I experienced things, there were kind of like aha moments. It's like, oh, okay, that's why I'm having a problem with that. And then it gives you an opportunity to face it.
Okay.
And then it gives you the opportunity to say, do I really believe that? Like, you know, like if I continue to believe that, why do I continue to believe it? And does it support me in believing it to begin with? And then it gives you the chance to kind of, you faced it. Excuse me. You know that it doesn't serve you in any particular sense by believing it. It just, you know, keeps you in a state of lack, and it keeps you in a state of poverty, you know, like whatever the situation may be, whatever the belief may be. And by doing so, it just makes things harder for you. So you face it, you say it doesn't serve you, you release it, and then you start building new at that point. You start saying, okay, well, since I know that that's not true, from my experiences, is what I do believe. You start building more of a positive experience towards it, and it starts to change you from that point. It takes a little bit of time. It's just like affirmations and stuff like that. It takes, a little bit of time for the subconscious to pick it up and to process it. But again, over time, it is beneficial. Okay. Especially for somebody who's interested in wanting to do things like more financial based magic, more wealth based magic. You're going to get more out of it in the end.
So I just want to make sure I understood or following what you said correctly. It would almost be, for example's sake, if I wanted a relationship in my life, a different kind of person, it would almost introduce me to the same people, the same problems, or quote unquote trauma experience, so I can make a new decision and therefore change my trajectory.
It could. Okay. Like if you're having a problem with attracting like the same type of person, the same bad type of relationship, just different people all the time, it's going to kind of expose you to like, why are you exposed to that type of person? And, you know, at that point you need to decide, is that healthy for you in that type of sense? You know, do you want to continue to live a life where you are always attracting the type of person that abuses you, that is an alcoholic? You know, they go out and they sleep with other people, and you know, they come home and they just like turn their back on you, or you know, whatever the situation may be. You know, there's all types of consequences or situations, but yeah, it will in some cases it can come to like like I said, an aha moment, like you just get like a revelation, and sometimes it could just like dump on you like a shitload of bricks, and it's like, oh fuck, okay, that's why I believe that, you know, that's why I'm in this situation where I am now, because the situation that we are now financially or in our love life or a lot of situations is who we are based on our decisions that we made in the past. What we made in the past has brought us to this point in time.
Okay.
True.
Okay.
So if we want to change that, we need to obviously change our way of thinking. We need to change our process. We need to change our programming. We've all heard the term by Albert Einstein, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results.
Right.
So why do I want to continue sticking my wet finger in a light socket and shocking the shit out of myself when it doesn't have any relative consequence? When I could just do something else, and using that as an analogy, obviously.
So for analogy, it can trigger a Groundhog Day like process, but it may not necessarily have to. Because I have noticed with certain GOM stuff in Magic in general, and this was a big thing when I started learning from Lucifer. He was putting people in my life where it was like, now you can just move on with that,
Yep.
And I find that interesting, and I thank you, because the New Age talks about this, and my gripe with New Age is it doesn't actually offer any solutions. But I wonder if now where New Agers are going wrong is they're doing this and they're getting this quote unquote negative synchronicity, and it's actually there to teach them or allow them to build a new pattern. And they're just reading into the hype wrong, because I know we were talking about in the warm-up, you were talking about the Joe Vitale stuff, and I said, I'm not a fan. I'm also in agreement with you. Law of attraction is really just oversimplified chaos magic, but that's its own matter. But they're expecting it all to be positive, when in reality, maybe they should be expecting kind of this eureka or a light bulb moment where it's like, aha, if I want a soulmate that does yoga or whatever, I should stop hanging out with the douchebag at the bar kind of scenario.
Right. Yeah.
So that's basically what you're saying it is?
Yeah, in a nutshell. And it
okay.
I think it based on the person, obviously there's going to be like an individualized experience based on what it is that you're looking to deprogram, whether it's money or love or relationship problems, obviously whatever. So but yeah, I think like I said, it could be something fairly simple to something very complex that it's like, you've been facing this problem like all your life, and you've just been kind of like brushing it off up to this point, and now you have to do something about it if you really want to make that change serious.
Okay. So, and I thank you for sharing. Now, my other question there is, do you think that the sigils are more effective than the Joe Vitale stuff, or just affirmations alone, which can be helpful? That's its own matter, but...
Well, if I remember correctly, regarding Joe Vitale, I'm not dissing the guy. I liked a lot of his material back in the day when I read it. I think he kind of asks like he kind of tells you to ask the same questions, like, does it serve you, and if not, like, but he doesn't really give you a means on how to release it, on how to build something new there. It's kind of like left up in the air, and I think that the sigils kind of work in that respect as well. It's like you're working with it, and this process can be very individualized, and I tell people that too. It's like I generally spent like a week with one or two sigils before I moved on, and in some cases, some weeks I had to spend multiple weeks with a particular sigil because I just had to go like a lot deeper. There was something like a lot deeper there. I knew that I had to continue to work on that particular area, and finally, it it came to the surface, and then I was able to let it go and build something new.
Okay.
But I would generally use that sigil like one day, and the process is fairly simple. It really just kind of directs you in the book. It's just like using any other sigil. You focus on it. You focus on changing something in your life. You know that what's there, it shouldn't be there. You don't know why, but you want it to change. You don't know how it's going to change or how it's going to manifest or come to the surface, but you know that you have to get rid of it. And it kind of like walks you through that process. Really, it only takes like 4 or 5, 6 minutes a day to work with it. But again, if you do it like over the course of like each day for like a week, at some point, that comes out, and you're faced with that situation. You go, okay, here it is. Then you gotta go. Then I would go through those steps. Like, how does this serve me for believing that? Or is it just really just like a bunch of bullshit believing in what it is, whatever it is, So.
Oh no, thank you for sharing, because that's a big question in this community, and not an easy one. So I hope you don't feel put on. I'm going to be checking out that book. I don't have it. Have you tried the Anna Blackthorne one? Just really quickly, the Sigils of Transformation. Is there a difference, or I guess?
I have the Sigils of Power and Transformation book. I find that book is geared a little more towards like, I don't want to say practical magic, but it is. Obviously, you have different areas like health magic and employment magic and stuff like that, and that's all well and good. And I've not really, I'll be honest with you, I've not really used that book all that much. I pretty much own every book out there except for the Magical Divinity book. But so I have like pretty much their entire library. But there's just certain books I like to go back to. Like, I'm not big on the Words of Power book.
We discussed that.
Myself, but I know that some people, like it. As I said, I've always been focused on financial magic, money magic. I like to get involved with something practical or something that would be useful for me, as opposed, to some other areas. And of course, when I work with that or I work out of that, I want to get into another area. That's fine. I got the book for that. If need be. So.
Okay. Come to think of it, I think I never saw the Blackthorne book. I think I did look at the Zana Blaze one for love. I never tried it. It is very mindset shifting. So her book is more for perception shifting, mindset shifting, call it what you will, than results themselves. In a nutshell.
Again, that particular book, it works on they have both by a meditative standpoint or a concentrative magic standpoint and a results-based magic standpoint. Okay. Obviously, some things are going to be more mental, psychological, in that type of sense, and some won't be. Now, as far as like the Angels of Love book, yeah, I have that book as well. Have I used it? Yeah. Have I completed everything? No. The most that I've come up to is maybe the 4th ritual in that book, and I've stopped for some reason. And I think the 4th ritual has something to do with just like bringing more love into your life, not necessarily a partner in itself, but just the feeling of more love, like friendship and building a relationship at that point. And for some people, I guess that's great. I haven't, like I said, I haven't gone through the entire process of that, but I've always seen the stop at that point, and I've done that one like 2 or 3 times. But for me, that seemed to be okay. I seemed to pull in exactly what I needed at that time, and I was fine with that.
I guess the reason I'm asking is it's my maybe biased hunch that, especially in the New Age committees, the Chaos Magic committees or communities, I have a feeling, and myself included, audience always, because I'm a flawed human and I'm learning. But we have done the results magic work. I think the focus is on the perception-based work, and that's not always the fun part. It's an opportunity for me too, but I am saying this because I really think that is where it's at for a lot of people at this point, especially in the low magic community. Rodrick, do you have anything you want to add on this belief perceptive shifting? If not, I have one final question to wrap it up for both of you guys.
I mean, I think that Steve summed it up perfectly. Honestly, I don't really have a whole lot to add with that. I'm in agreement. Even though I haven't worked through the books that you gentlemen were discussing, like the money magic stuff, I'm interested in that, and I'm very much interested in shifting perceptions about money. That was something I was actually just thinking about recently because, as I've already mentioned, I have a very rebellious nature when it comes to institutions. So it might be a good idea to kind of do some shadow playing with that. But yeah, for me, magic is huge for psychological changes. It's just huge on that. And I talk a lot about shadow work. I know that is a term being thrown around in the New Age community a lot too. But when I say shadow work, I don't mean just getting a journal and writing, the day that you were abused and trying to forgive the person who did it. Those, not to say that that can't be useful, but it's actually using dark archetypes, whatever kinds of, I mean, I do a lot of work with different spirits. I think I've already kind of mentioned that before. So that's one way that I do shadow work, I guess.
I mean, that could be a topic for another day. I love doing this work with you guys. I guess my one question for you is, myself included, would you be interested maybe one day looking at that and reverse engineering it as an artist too, those perception shifts as an artist? Because I wonder if, I have this negative perception of the bullshit new age content creators would just blow up overnight. And I've been really asking myself, how does that impact the growth of chaos vibration? I used to be proud when a lot of my audience said this channel's underrated. And while I appreciated that support, I started asking myself, well, gee, I actually stopped taking so much excitement in that, even though it felt good to have my work supported, because I was like, well, what am I affirming to myself when I say, oh, it's great to be underrated? You know what I'm saying? And in art, like money, there's that same perception. If you're selling records, you're selling comics, you are somehow not succeeding, and you could really go back and that's a fallacy, or it's completely subjective at the very least. So,
yeah, I mean, a lot of it has to do with like how we perceive ourselves and being in the human, the human animal. And I've already discussed this earlier. When you're doing magic, like anything else, you're gonna. I don't like to say failure. I hate that fucking word, failure. You're gonna fail. No, you're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna make mistakes. You're going to do things that you wished later. I should have tried this way. But one way of shifting perceptions is not seeing them as failures. To me, failure means that something doesn't work, and it almost has like an eternity to it. Like you ask a girl out and she says no. So someone might say, well, that's a failure. Well, now, does that mean that your whole dating life is screwed up and you'll never be able to date or marry? No, it doesn't mean that at all. It doesn't even necessarily mean that one person is, finished with you either. But
hey, it just smelled bad.
Yeah, I mean, our emotions get hit very hard, or egos get hit very hard. So shifting perceptions is, I like how Steve brought it up with the whole ideas of money and how we've been programmed. The whole time I was listening to him talk, I was kind of reflecting on some ways I was taught about money, because I come from a working class family as well. I don't come from a rich family. I come from a very working class family. And they would say the same thing. They would say no when I would ask for things as a kid all the time. And I've heard the same thing. Money doesn't grow on trees. And money is this animal that is presented to us through time that seems like it's so difficult to get all the time. And just this morning, I saw one of my friends on Facebook posted an article, and it's a CNN news article, and it's titled, "Why Inflation is Good for the Working Class and Bad for Rich People." And I'm going, this is just a bunch of bullshit, dude. It's just all these different ways of engineering us to hate money.
money, to just hate it, to just think that it's so difficult to work with all the time. And another thing I want to throw out there while we're on the discussion of the perception of money is something that people don't really think about. They think about it, but they don't think about it in this way. So when we talk about money, we're always attaching status to it. Like if we say car, someone might think of a desirable kind of car, their dream car, or the latest Tesla. If you say house, they're not going to think about a tiny home or a homestead. Most people, I'm saying, not everybody, some people do. They're going to think about something very lavish. And again, these lavish ideas are programmed in us as a unattainable attainment. So that programs us with bad money relationships as well. When we think money, having shelter, we think of that about how nice it would be to have in some rapper's house or something, and that's not what we need. We need sufficient shelter that's safe and that's efficient. And once you attain that, then, depending on what your goals are, for me, I want to have a small goat ranch, not a big miles and miles large ranch, but a couple of goats and a dog. That's something that I would really like to achieve at some point. It doesn't have to be anything super fancy or super big, but yeah, reprogramming ourselves, it's just something that just takes a great deal of time. And magical practices are great for that because we're diving into our shadow. We're diving into facing things that we don't like within ourselves. And I don't think it has to be like this hell practice. It doesn't have to be super painful where we're suffering and grueling all the time and groveling and whatnot. But we should just allow ourselves to receive, like you were saying in Success Magic, just being able to receive something. So that's pretty much where I'm at with the whole process right now.
Yeah. The receiving's one I know I have to work on. I noticed this holiday season, I was telling coworkers doing tarot readings for my guys. I was like, I like giving gifts. I don't like receiving. And I caught myself, I'm like, and how much is this fucking up my ability to not even manifest bullshit, growth, clients, the ability to support this channel, help you guys grow. So I'm going to be looking at that in 2022. So thank you for bringing that up. Now, do you have anything else you want to add there? Or?
Yeah, a little bit. I can add something else too, because you were talking about all of us are growing our platforms, and you were talking about how you're underrated and how that when we hear things like that, I mean, I've been told that on my podcast. I was told that the podcast it's an underrated medium because it's my voice. It's not really, people aren't really seeing me, and I just did it because I like it. I like that medium. It's something that in the occult community, there's not a whole lot of. So that's why I did it. That was my personal reasons. Now, I'm looking to expand a little more and getting into making videos and things like that as well. But the podcast will be the main. However, I think that since we're on the trek to grow our platforms, it's just good to just, I don't know. I don't have any really good guru like answers. I just say have fun with this. Have fun with the journey, because too many times we're always wanting the result and forgetting about the whole journey. I know that's extremely cliche to say, but that's true. I can vouch for that. And my journey of doing my podcast project, I was telling myself I want to get some published authors, and I did. I want to get some people that are pretty popular in the community, and I did. But it didn't happen for me necessarily because I have these fancy connections or I have all this money or anything like that. It's just having a lot of fun. And when I look back in retrospect, I'm just seeing that I just see myself as a person deserving it, I guess. It's been the same thing in my love life for many years. I have some friends that didn't really have the best of luck with that, and they would ask me about it, and I just say, well, how do you see yourself? Do you see yourself as somebody able to receive something like that, or do you see yourself as somebody who doesn't deserve that? And when you listen to their dialogue, while we're on the subject of the quoting the Bible, there's a great passage in the Bible that says what is it? I'm just kind of paraphrasing that that a man's tongue is like the rudder of a ship. It steers their destiny. I'm very much paraphrasing it, but that's what it says, something kind of like that.
And there's some truth to that. Like that's a hidden clue on the LOA right there.
Well, let's give credit where it's due. While I say things about the Bible, we all do. There's still plenty of fucking great wisdom in it too. So
It's still, yeah,
that goes without
most
saying,
definitely,
right?
most definitely. Constantine probably didn't like intend on leaving some of those occult hidden nuggets in there, but they're there. And that's definitely one of them. So how we see ourselves. So I think focusing on self vision is very important. And when I say self vision, I'm not talking about ego, because right now we're living in a time of great ego. And what I mean by great ego, there's nothing wrong with having an ego, but I'm talking about we're focusing a lot on the shell. When you look at the internet, when you look at social media, it's gotten to the point to where I'm sure you guys will agree with me. Every other woman's face has fucking anime eyes and shit on there. You know, people are gonna like the little kids now are growing up thinking that people look like anime characters now. They're being programmed to think that way. You know, so how we envision ourselves, not so much physically, but how do we see ourselves as recipients in this reality is a big one. So
Okay. Well, as always, what I like about you guys is you guys always go beyond the topics and add so much, and it's always a lot to take in. But when I love editing it, because these probably have more. These will spawn a lot more. But my final questions for both of you, and thank you guys for the shoot.
Thank you for having us.
Is I'm gonna throw a curveball at you guys. You can each pick 5 Gallery of Magick books with an ends goal. So, for example, and I would assume Steve's yours is gonna be Wealth Magic, okay? Yours is probably gonna be HGA, all right, connecting to your magical destiny, higher wisdom. What, being this is coming full circle, this was about where people could invest their money into GOM. What would be the 5 GOM books you would recommend people check out, in what order and why, based on the outcome here? If you need an example, I'll be happy to start if that's easier. If not, I'm going to let you guys get to it because I know we're racking up time
here. Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, for me, it's, again, because just of my financial back there, it's always going to be Magical Cash Book and Magical Riches and Wealth Magic. It's going to be the top 3. I would say Magical Protection on top of that. Not a bad idea to have that. Excuse me. As far as the last one, that could be a little bit difficult. You would think that it would be like 72 Angels of Magic, but it's really not. I would probably have to go with Success Magic at that point, or the 72 Sigils of Power at that point, by Xanablaze would probably be like a tie between those, that last one.
Okay. So just to make sure I heard you right, paraphrase it, you basically get Cash Book to get the cash flowing, right?
Yep.
Then you do Riches to stabilize your income in your current paradigm or timeline, right? As they would say. You go to Wealth Magic to get to the next stage in your journey, get over that upper limit problem, right?
That's long term. That's like your portfolio that you have with your investor. You're looking at like 5 years, 10 years, kind of thing. Like that's Wealth Magic. That's
awesome. I'm not trying to criticize this, just to better understand it.
Sure.
Would you use Protection Magic here to maybe protect the work you've just done to prevent backsliding? Is that what I'm sensing, or that would just be another one you'd throw in just because?
Probably a little bit of that, and probably just for a because kind of situation. Because I've been in situations where I've witnessed situations where it's like somebody else wasn't like in quite a position to be able to defend themselves, and I have used magical protection to kind of take care of that situation, in the past, and obviously I didn't go to that person and say, "Oh, yeah, by the way, I did this 3-day ritual for you to help you out because I saw that you were in such a predicament the other day." Obviously I'm not going to, I generally don't do that, but obviously, and we were talking about how like I was proactive, how I've been proactive this week with joining LifeLock and stuff like that, like before the whole discussion thing. Obviously when you get to a point in your life that you're attracting more things, you're becoming more successful, sometimes you have a tendency to be more of a target at that point. So obviously there's situations in the book like to protect yourself against thievery or identity theft. Obviously you have the sword banishing ritual in there as well.
Hey,
nice thing to have. So
great answer, well thought out. And then the fifth one, I guess, just to make sure I'm grasping this right, is like a success magic or an equivocal to either apply your wealth towards something in your life, so we're not just buying dumb shit, or change your perception because it's going to change you. It's almost a rinse, wash, repeat every couple of years or something. Yep. So we were bringing in money, we're increasing our threshold, our quote-unquote vibration, as the New Age calls it. We're capitalizing on it, locking it in with protection magic, focusing it towards this, our new life, rediscovering ourselves and rebooting the process.
Yep.
I love that answer. Thank you very much for saving that. I might try that myself, actually. Rodrick, for you, this could be HGA. This could be whatever you want. What 5 Gallery of Magick books would you recommend with the same outcome in mind?
Oh, I mean, almost in the order that I've experienced them, to be quite honest. So I would just say, I mean, it's of course going to depend on what type of magic the person does, but I would just say all around that the wonderful thing about these books is that they fit anybody. Any book, like if you're a chaos magician and you don't do ceremonial magic, but you have a curiosity about angels, you could get the Angels of Magic book. You could get that because it kind of has almost I shouldn't say a Phil Hine feel to it, but it sort of does. Like it's sort of a little bit of that in there, without really trying to rip it off, I guess, So I would just say, and the order is a little difficult. I would just say either the Adam Blackthorne Masterworks Chaos, because that book is it's more than just a chaos magic book. That book is great because it allows the magician to open up to other possibilities of different kinds of magical workings. Like we were talking about before, there's the Olympian spirits. I've read reviews where other magicians have used that book and they've used that method for the Olympian spirits on other spirits.
Right.
So there's that point there. So I would say that book or the Angels of Magic. One of those could be first. It could be 1 or 2 or 2 and 1, whatever. And then I would just say go for the person who's achieved some experience with that. Go ahead and get Archangels of Magic. And the reason why I say that is because he expands on working with those energies, working with those angels. Because in that book, there's divination, there's evocation, not just invocation. And when we're talking about evocation, we're not talking about going out in the middle of the woods and spending 7 days and fasting. And it's like here, it's a very direct, straightforward, but it's just enough effort and visualization to do it, and using a lot of the same tools that you would use in invocation. And then after that, I would just say protection magic. And I know that's not 5 books, but those are the ones I would are well, because those books, the other one, the aforementioned ones, they do have a lot of practical magic coverage in there. There's angels that deal with money. There's angels that deal with love. There's angels that deal with things like that. So if a person's open enough, they can do that. Or if they're more drawn to chthonic deities and chthonic energies and not so much angelic, they can just go ahead and get the Demons of Magic book. Now, I haven't worked from that one per se. I do own it, but I've read it cover to cover. I've read the whole book. I've read like how to do Ritual 1, Ritual 2, so so that's what I recommend. But the magical protection is very important. Like Steve was saying, the sword banishing is very, very easy to do, extremely easy. And there's you need to know magical protection. The further along you do this.
Okay. Yeah, I'll probably have to go back over that one too. And assuming it does work out, would you theoretically, hypothetically, maybe put the magical destiny at the end?
Yes.
But when
Magic
we
and
have all
Destiny.
that, now we connect to the true will. So just in synopsis.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I didn't bring that up. I was going to bring that up originally because I wasn't sure if that was something that because I'm just thinking about. I'm answering your question, thinking about the average beginner. The average beginner
Okay.
may not know much about the holy demon or holy guardian angel. It may not even be that interested in it. That's something that a lot of people get into later on in this work. For me, it was from the very beginning for some reason, but that's not everybody's thing.
I
But
mean,
I would put it in the end though, because not to cut you off, I would put that in the end because once you've gotten the feel of chaos magic or that type of magic, I guess you can call it, because I think that Masterworks chaos magic goes beyond just the general what we would call chaos magic.
absolutely.
There's just enough of structure for the haters that don't like chaos magic. There's the tech that can be used in ceremonial workings or any other kind of magic, or even witchcraft for that matter, you know. But I would put the magical destiny in the end because after they've gone through those other steps, they've learned protection, they've learned basic invocation from the angel and archangel books. They've learned how to have the mindset to do magic from the Masterwork Chaos Magic book. Now they can start to get to the real meat and potatoes, which is their HGA, which is something that's beyond the basic idea and something that your magical goals can really take you higher with that. Because once you achieve full contact with your HGA, your magic is going to come a lot faster and easier to a person. It's going to come a lot faster, and you're going to be building your craft a lot better with that too. And then it's just going to be something that I can't even describe. It just goes even beyond that. So
Okay. Sounds great. Now, does the HGA also help you find your life purpose? Because I don't know if I subscribe to HGA, but call it apotheosis or something. I guess the question just for me is, or the other term is great work. When we learn this shit, we learn this magic, there is time to make the quote unquote return journey, as the shamans say, which I think they're honestly scared shitless of. But anyway, don't get me started. It pretty much, it's like, okay, I've learned these skills. I've had these experiences. Now what do I do with my life? You know, how do I make my life better and hopefully the lives around me better?
well, the HGA is something that it's beyond a concept. So you're asking, is it connected to our life purpose? And I would say absolutely. And the reason it is because it's connected to the highest part of yourself in the here and now. You know, and most people don't really know themselves. They know a few aspects of themselves at best. The average person, beyond knowing their name, appearance, and social security number, and what kind of Subway sandwich they like to get, and what kind of Starbucks coffee they like to get, what music they like, they don't know much about themselves beyond their primordial survival skills. They don't know themselves on a spiritual level, which is why that's the whole game of spirituality. The whole game is to know who you really are. And the struggle between the right hand and left hand path is the right hand, even though most of them don't refer to themselves as right hand, it's about godhood, you know, knowing godhood, knowing divinity. And then on the left hand path, it's, you know, I'm a god kind of. So, like, how do I know that?
Oh, sorry to cut you off. I was just saying you'd appreciate this. I was thinking about this breakfast morning. I'm like, I feel like left hand path and right hand path done right kind of end up at the same fucking place.
Yeah, it's kind of, you know, if you've listened to some of the shows I've been on recently, that's been the topic a lot, is how they're sort of merging a little bit more because we're all growing together. You know, people on the left-hand path are doing shadow work. The quote Ian Ferguson, who was on my podcast quite recently, you know, they're doing shadow work for not only themselves, but for everybody on the planet, you know, and all of that is affecting. When I do my own personal shadow work, it affects everyone around me. It does. In some way, it does. Because as I come to know my real, true spiritual self, I'm knowing my true spiritual self beyond myself and other people, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So while you are cultivating this thing called the Holy Daemon or the HGA,
you are knowing that, and you are growing with that. So
Okay.
that's the beauty of it.
Okay. Well, Rodrick said it beautifully, guys. Just to in summarization, the points are basically starting with Masterworks Chaos Magic. You know, you're getting the tech, you're getting the fundamentals of magic. You're seeing a little bit of everything from the practical stuff to the sigils. Eventually to spirit work there, you're getting a feel for that. I also agree. The only other thing I want to add is that is a cumulative book. You don't need Damon Brand Servitors. That book teaches you how to make one. You make a sigil, you build something, then you conduct a ritual for it, bam, you move on. Then you are working with it was the Archangels of Magic, right?
Yeah, because it takes it a couple of steps further, because
Right,
you can, if a person chooses, they can explore evocation. There's
right.
angelic evocations in there. There's some practices in there that sort of almost sound like HGA type of practices.
So
And
yeah,
there's divinations, building your spirit vision, things like that are in there. So that's more, I would say that one is a little bit, I don't want to say advanced, but
we're
if
building off it.
you're building off of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then we are building off it, guys. Then we're doing a protection ritual to kind of lock this in, so we
Most definitely.
don't stagnate or fall back the way it can happen in New Age and to Chaos Magician. And then we are, in theory, looking for something like Magical Destiny to connect to our great work when we have these tools self-actualize and make the world around us a better place. I absolutely love that. And I think between both you guys, they've pretty much given you the tools, and I would assume with those 10 books, you could probably get a lot done in a few years and really transform yourself. So
I think so.
there it is. This did go on, but these guys had great points. I just want to conclude this by once again wishing everyone a Merry Christmas. I want to thank the Gallery of Magick for their contribution here to the occult community, pushing magic forward, and as I think it says in Advanced Magic for Beginners, how I feel, with all the respect to the other Chaos Magician, in a lot of ways, resolving certain problems the Chaos Magic only bequeathed in my eyes, especially in the early days, doesn't make it bad. And most importantly, I want to thank both of these guys for their contributions, because it's a busy time. Steve's about to head off to work, so please subscribe. He's worth it. He also has great content. Rodrick's doing a lot of podcasts. You can always check him out on the Far Side of Midnight or Lords of Chaos podcast. He's also doing comics. It's holidays for all of us, so we were eager to get this out to you guys, and I want to thank them for their contribution. You know where to find us, and I'm going to close it out like I did last time. If you don't, well, we're Maverick Magician. We know spells and shit. We have the Gallery of Magic books, the Painful Magic books. Lucifer's got many masks, and we know them all, so if you don't, it's your ass. But in all seriousness, thank you, everybody. Thank you, guys. Happy holiday. And have a great week, everybody. Take care.
Hell, Lucifer, guys.